Hey, all right, we are live. We are live. Welcome, everybody, to another live stream chat with myself and Taj. Oh wait, okay, how many people are watching? Oh, here we go. We got 20. All right, we're gonna wait. What do we usually do? We wait for a few more, don't we?
Yeah, you could talk if you want, though. I mean,
yeah. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is all new to me. I'm going entirely under Taj's very kind and
I
gracious
love it.
guidance.
You have all the pressure now, right?
Yeah, exactly. So thank you so much, Taj, for doing this on my channel. Welcome again, everyone, to another live stream chat that's going to be at least 7.5 hours. Just kidding.
Like a record.
With myself and the wonderful Taj. Yes, we are doing this this time around on my YouTube channel right here. So please feel free to like and subscribe. And we're happy to have you guys here. We're going to wait for a couple more people to come in on here and view it. But hello, everyone. Thank you for your comments. Bear with me. I'm sure it'll be fine, but just in advance, I'm going to be multitasking, which my wife will tell you I'm not good at. So,
hell yeah.
so I'm going to be checking out the comments and selecting your questions while we speak. So hi, everybody. I've spoken too long already. Taj, what's up? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Excuse the noise in the background. There's some vacuum cleaners going on and all that stuff, but everything else is great. I'm excited to be on, Danny.
Lovely. Thank you, Taj, for being here. And of course, a big congratulations as well, because as you guys know, that Taj has had another joyful experience of parenthood with baby girl number 2.
Yes.
So congratulations and best wishes. All right, guys. So roll on in. We got a few people in here. All right, we're climbing. We've got a couple latecomers. I think we should have been fashionably late, Taj. We're too.
No, we're fine. Yeah, people will catch it back on YouTube as well, because it's not. Yeah, when you post it up, so whatever they missed from before, they'll jump back and see it.
All right, great. So we're going to be discussing a whole bunch of things, all things Michael, of course, and like I said before, answering any of your questions. Hi, John, and everyone joining us. Hi, Shuva. I hope you're all well. Lovely to see you guys here. One of the most recent things right now that's hit worldwide news and is very relevant to us in the Michael fan community and the MJ fan worldwide is the whole thing with Martin Bashir, and it's hit the headlines that he. I mean, there was some talk of it before, but it's hit the headlines that he definitely forged a lot of documents in order to deceive, and I guess you can kind of say lure Princess Diana into doing an interview with him. And it's come out that he was entirely unethical in doing so, and it was completely fraudulent, like just massively corrupt. It's all come out, and of course, as you all know, he's been asked to apologize, and you know, Taj and I were speaking last night on the phone, and I started going into it, getting really passionate and angry. And Taj was like, no, wait, hold on, let's save this for tomorrow. And, you know, I was just saying, what an absolute slime ball. And I'm sure you guys will agree, you know, because it's like this guy behaves in this manner, breaking people's trust, and deliberately, and as he did with Michael, you all know in the footage you were never meant to see, with Michael's cameras rolling, you know, how he kind of lures his guests, I guess you can say, he lures them in to trust him, whether it's sweet talking them just to go and deceive and betray them. And he did that with Diana, and of course with Michael, he presented a letter that was allegedly written from Diana praising Bashir, which is basically the whole reason that Michael said, well, excellent, if Diana approves of him, then I'm all go. And so this is a big thing right now. And Taj, I know that your family have come out and spoken about, you know, this and kind of reportedly demanded some kind of apology from Bashir's camp and ITV. So maybe you want to talk about that a little bit.
Well, first, there's a lot to say. First of all, with Bashir, I can't imagine a person that has access to Princess Di and Michael Jackson and does something sleazy like that in itself. I mean, these are people that I would just be, I'd want to know everything great about them, what they've done, like their child, like everything. And to be manipulative in that situation and to think, how can I further my career off of these people, as opposed to how can I show the world how amazing these people are, it just takes a certain type of human to do that. And I just can't fathom that, because that's not in my DNA to do. Like, so I just I still don't understand how someone could do that, how someone could hang out with my uncle for 8 months.
Yeah.
And my uncle show him everything, show him all the charity stuff he's been doing and everything like that. And then go back and put voiceovers and edits and this and that to make Neverland seem sinister like that. I just don't understand like what that takes in someone's soul. And just really, like really, really, really dark soul. And so that is one of the first things in that. I think it's very interesting that ITV is like criticizing BBC, but you know, they're not getting any of the criticism because Living with Michael Jackson was on ITV. And so, you know, we want an investigation into Martin Bashir on that angle.
Of course, because when Bashir did the Diana interview, it was with the BBC. But
BBC and everyone's saying how shame on the BBC, shame on, you know, but, you know, where's ITV's investigation on Martin Bashir?
Exactly.
And just so people know, and I haven't started reading the comments yet, so I'll start reading them too, in terms of just looking at them or glancing at them. But just so that people know, like, I haven't even started raising my voice yet in terms of that. I have a couple of media appearances and news stuff that were lined up once I started tweeting. And this is not something I'm going to let go in any form. Martin Bashir needs to be investigated for living with Michael Jackson, and ITV needs to either do it or be investigated themselves in terms of being complacent with it. I think
right. Yeah.
Either you're not complacent with it and you want to do the investigation and show, hey, look, this was a separate entity and we had nothing to do with this, or you need to be investigated yourself because you're protecting something. That's how I look.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's disgraceful. This isn't something that he should be allowed to get away with. And you know, as we well know, yeah, great. And it's, you know, and it's great. It's reassuring to hear you speak of it yourself, you know, and how your family feel about it and how you guys are looking to respond to it. I mean, have you guys had any kind of conversations at home, kind of as a group, about how you guys hope to or intend to kind of move forward, or you guys haven't got there just yet?
I mean, there was a lie going around that said we were suing. We were never. No one in our family ever mentioned suing.
Right.
It was started by someone else, and of course the media just went along with it and just printed it that the family was threatening to sue. We've never mentioned a lawsuit in general. I've mentioned investigations. I've mentioned that I want the truth to come out, you know, in that way. So I think with our family, people can speak on our behalf without us even knowing, and that becomes, and that's kind of dangerous as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's weird because I have such a huge family. So when you say family, I don't know who you're talking about in that way. I can tell you that when I saw my grandma recently, because we were watching ABC, the channel ABC and all that stuff, some news on Martin Bashir and Princess Di came on the screen. It was muted, but it perked her attention. I saw her reading like the screen and seeing what it was saying and stuff like that. So I kind of I didn't want to get into it with her because that's not what I want to spend my time with my grandma, you know, in general, but I can tell it affected her. And so it's like, it gave me more fire in terms of making sure he doesn't get away with what he did.
Yeah, absolutely. And as well, you think as well, like from your grandma's, you know, perspective, it's like, you know, even now, you know, what is it? Nearly 12 years after Michael's passing, will be 12 years this June 25th. You know, even now is having to deal with more things that are reminding her of you know, people who have caused heartbreak and sadness in Michael's life. And of course, you know, if we kind of put it in a nutshell, these were the seeds that I guess you can say, in effect, caused Michael's passing to some degree. It was definitely, I think,
I said
a contributing factor.
I was very careful. I said one of the main reasons, because it is one of the main reasons. I didn't say the reason. You know, I said one of the main reasons, because from that documentary, how twisted it was, that that allowed Tom Sneddon to have some ammo and some public outcry to go back and convince the Arvizos to file a lawsuit against Michael, quote unquote, that they were, you know, that Gavin was abused. So all this came because of that documentary, and the trial came because of the documentary, and the trial, I can say without a doubt, was one of the leading factors to Michael's passing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's disgusting what you think the journalists and the media are able to get away with. It's so corrupt and deceitful. You know, saying one thing. I mean, actually, I have to. I mean, it reminds me of, you know, the whole thing with leaving Neverland. It goes back to that, how it's completely emotionally manipulative, implying falsehoods, you know, and spinning this narrative on it, you know, on your uncle, and just being completely deceitful. I have to read something here for all you guys, and many thanks to the very wonderful Charles Thompson.
Oh yeah.
And I messaged him this morning saying, "Hey buddy, hope you're well. doing a live stream with TAJ this evening. We're going to be touching on the whole Bashir thing. Anything I should know that I might not already?" So he sent me he sent me a big long text message. So I thank him for this.
Yes,
I've known about a whole bunch of this stuff before, but this is in a very eloquent and articulate detail. And of course, it's Charles, and here's a whole bunch more stuff as well. So many of those of you out there might not know. So I'll read it from start to finish. Take a few minutes. It says, I think something people always miss is the timeline with the whole Bashir scenario. Bashir didn't just film Gavin. He was responsible for bringing Gavin back into Michael's life. The timeline is this. In 1999, Carol Lemaire, for those of you who don't know, Taj knows very well. Carol did Taj's braids, right, Taj?
Yes.
And was one of Michael's hair and makeup girls, aside from Karen Bay. That's correct?
Yeah.
And I spoke
not makeup, hair,
right? Okay, cool. Yeah, and I spoke with Carol on the phone for a few hours in 2019, and some of the stuff she had to say was just like, wow, you know, a lot of people don't know these things. Anyway, in '99, Carol Lemaire knows the Arvizos because they're in the same tap dance school as her son. She is so close to them that the sister Davlin Arvizo sometimes stays in her house overnight, and they spend time together. She gets a call telling her that Gavin is dying and desperately wants to meet Michael. She puts them in touch. The very first day, the family meet Michael at the dinner table. Gavin asks Michael if he can stay in his room that night. Michael is uncomfortable and suspicious, so asks Frank Cassio to stay in the room with them as well as a witness. And that was the whole thing where Michael said, you know, he slept on the floor with Frank, and sorry guys, I haven't got my glasses on. Right after that, we know from Gavin's testimony that Michael started distancing himself from the Arvizos. They continued visiting Neverland, but Michael would avoid them. Gavin testified to being upset because they were told once that Michael wasn't on the ranch when they were there, and they saw him in the library, that upset him. In 2000, Carol Lemaire calls Michael's camp, distraught, telling them to get Michael away from the Arvizo children immediately. She says that during one of her regular visits to Carol's house, Davlin blabbed that Janet, the mother, was planning to blackmail Michael with a false allegation lawsuit of inappropriate touching with her sons, so she could buy a big house in the Hollywood Hills. It appears that Michael either wasn't informed or for various other reasons, just didn't get the message at that point and it didn't go in. But Michael's camp iced out the Arvizos. They couldn't get Michael's new number. The invitations to Neverland dried up. The family resorted to bombarding Michael with letters and cards calling Michael Daddy Michael, saying Prince and Paris were their siblings, that Michael cured Gavin's cancer, and that they missed him. Gavin testified that they sent about one every month. In 2002, Martin Bashir enters the picture, and he tells Michael that he's making a documentary all about his philanthropy and his charity work. He says he is going to arrange a meeting between Michael and Kofi Annan, Secretary General of the UN, so they can work together on creating an international children's holiday. He says he is going to fly Michael to Africa to film his work with AIDS sufferers. He says he wants to take Michael to downtown LA to show how his philanthropy benefits inner city youth. But first, he says, he meaning Bashir, he says he wants A, to film Michael inviting around 50 children into Neverland to show how wonderful it is there. B, to film an interview with Macaulay Culkin at Neverland for some reason or another. And C, to shoot interviews with past beneficiaries of Michael's charity work. Michael, who is being bombarded with messages from his family who say he cured their kids' cancer, thinks they'd be perfect and invites them to the ranch. Dietmar Weisner, Michael's manager at the time, knew nothing about the Bashir project until he arrived at Neverland one day and Bashir was there already filming. Bashir had got to Michael unofficially through Uri Geller, so by the time Michael's team found out, the train had already left the station. Michael invites the Arvizos to be filmed. He also invites Dave, who you guys may well know about, the burn victim, who Gavin testifies was there on the shooting day. Although it's unclear whether Bashir filmed him and trashed it or just didn't bother filming him. Macaulay, that interview never happened because Macaulay wasn't available. When Bashir sits down with Michael and Gavin, who is it that brings up out of nowhere, totally unsolicited, about staying in Michael's room? Gavin. 2 years later, Lemire had warned that the daughter had confessed to her that Janet was planning a false accusation towards Michael. Now they finally get back into Neverland, and the first thing Gavin does is put himself in front of the camera crew and announce that he had slept in Michael's bedroom, and this all coming very out of the blue. Bashir gets that in the can, and then guess what? Africa never happens. Downtown LA never happens. The UN never happens. The Neverland visits with all the underprivileged children Bashir spoke about never happens, which was only because Bashir requested it. Bashir then gave a voiceover, suddenly changing the whole narrative about how disturbing it was to discover that Michael was inviting kids to his ranch and all the stuff about Frank Cassio staying in the room with Michael as a witness when Gavin stayed there. This never made the cut and was all left on the cutting room floor. Carol Lemire told Charles and TAJ in 2019 that when the Bashir show went out in 2003, she sat and watched it with Gavin's by then estranged father, David. She said he was telling her in advance as they were watching what Gavin would do. Watch, he said, next he'll rest his head on Michael's shoulder and this kind of thing. He told her it was all part of the grift. The family was constantly grooming and manipulating their targets, including Michael, of course. He said Gavin was basically a trained con artist. They're the words of Gavin's father, you guys. And that's what Carol told investigators when they came knocking in 2004, that the Arvizo kids were all trained con artists. Bashir's lies about wanting to make this glowing portrayal of Michael's philanthropic work were directly responsible for reintroducing the Arvizos into Michael's life, enabling them to follow through on their old plan of setting Michael up, instigating a series of events which ultimately killed Michael and led to his death. Also worth noting that the way Bashir gained access to Michael was that he produced a letter, as we previously mentioned, from Princess Diana, allegedly from Princess Diana, saying what an excellent journalist Bashir was. He was approached by Michael's UK publicist, Mark Bukowski, and showed him the letter. But Bukowski didn't like him and didn't take it forward. Then he approaches Uri Geller and showed it to him. According to Timez's opening statement, Timez, meaning Tom Mesereau, Uri agreed to introduce Bashir to Michael, but demanded payment. Uri has publicly denied that, but the allegation is privileged as it's a court transcript. Once Uri Geller brought Bashir to Michael, he showed Michael the letter too. So he duped Diana onto the interview using what has now been found to have been given a devious and deceitful fraudulent means of getting the interview. Then he used that deception of Diana as a springboard to deceive Michael and lure him into. Carol was on the witness list, and Davlin was questioned about Carol in preparation, but Tom Mesereau ended up cutting the defense case short by around 2 months because Chris Tucker got off the witness stand, and the atmosphere in the courtroom was so heavy from the terrible revelations Tucker had just made about the Arvizos, and from Sneddon calling him boy, that Tom's instincts just told him to rest the case, so he did. However, Carol's witness statements had been placed on the public record almost a year earlier, filed as court documents in support of a motion, so we now know what her testimony was going to be as outlined above. So for the majority of our live stream so far, I'd like to say a big thank you to Charles. But it's just very insightful. You know, that is a massive thing right there from start to finish. It's extremely insightful.
Very insightful. Yeah. I mean,
and it just goes to show that he was relentless. I mean, I was saying to you on the phone last night, this slime ball, he's like, you know, he's apologizing to Diana's family, and then in the next breath, he's saying but he wasn't responsible for contributing to her death or any stress in her life in any way. And it's just like, it's like, where's your moral?
Maybe some people just aren't born with it. I don't know in that way, because I can't fathom being able to sleep at night knowing if I had done something like that to someone, and to do it to multiple people is just even more ridiculous. But here we are. I mean, my uncle, as you can tell with other famous people, when sometimes the more famous you become, the more targets you have. You know, and that's definitely the case with my uncle. Like, big bullseye on his back in terms of, and you don't think, because you don't have it inside you, you don't think, well, why would someone do that? Why would someone make up something? You know, but it happens all the time. That's the thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, Michael was
all the time.
As you say, the bigger the star, the bigger the target. And, you know, Michael was a victim of his own popularity, and it affected him in so many ways. And Michael said that also, you know, that bigger the star, the bigger the target. And he was vulnerable to vultures like this. He really was. I mean, someone's just reminding us here about the JCPenney situation.
Yeah.
You know,
which was in court. Yeah, I mean, that showed up in court, that testimony.
Right. So this is just really infuriating, you know. And with everything coming out about Diana now, you know, that's wonderful that it is coming out, and, you know, the truth is being revealed. But of course, you know, we hope that Michael gets equal consideration.
I saw that so many snakes around the thing that you have to remember about my uncle was he always tried to see the good in people, no matter what. And I think that was a thing. Even when he was on guard and had his guard up, he always was still looking for the good in someone. Yeah. Which I know my grandma has as well, you know, that trait. She's always so forgiving and so loving in that way, to a fault. But that's what I love about her. That's actually what I admire about her. It's weird to admire someone's weakness, but I do admire that, because to me, trying to see and believe in someone is not a weakness in that way. Now, people always let you down if they're just corrupt or only want to go after money.
Yeah.
But, you know, I would rather not look at people like that and not be so skeptical of people and think people are good people, because otherwise I would just probably not want to talk to anyone.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing, you know, I say, like, you know, your uncle's finest quality was also his biggest weakness. It was his Achilles heel. It was his naivety, his willingness to see the beauty in everyone, and how very forgiving he was. You know, of course, the right people will treat that just as it should be treated, but of course, then you've got all these vultures that just take complete advantage of that. You know, we're going to take a couple questions. I'm just zooming down here. Like I say, bear with me, everybody, because this is my first time doing it.
Yeah, this is
usually Taj has this responsibility on his shoulders where I can just sit back.
Yeah, you're just sitting back. Now you're realizing. I'll answer one question that's not a question you'll probably I think Fatima asked what I was drinking. I'm drinking a coffee bean in a cup. I didn't want the logo to show up. I didn't want it to be an advertisement, but that's what I'm drinking because it's going to wake me up, but it's also good.
Yeah, something healthy to start your day with.
Yeah.
Well, something caffeine fuels, no?
Yeah, I was gonna say caffeine with some chocolate. So
yeah, a little bit of flavor in there. Okay, let's get some questions in here. I'm just gonna zoom through. Once again, everyone, thank you guys all so much for joining Taj and I here on our live stream. We really appreciate it, and me personally, I appreciate your support. And Taj, once again, a massive thank you. I appreciate your support and your guidance massively. All right, let's see. I'm trying to be fair and get as many people up on here as I can. I feel bad.
It's hard, right? Yeah.
See, yeah. Taj, I'm just, hey, man, I'm completely like, I have total compassion, and I'm completely relating to you now with the position you're usually in.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing all of this back in terms of just what happened, because that is exactly, they set it up early on in terms of what they want to do, and then they kind of go with a plan, and the public thinks, oh, this is just spontaneous, but it's been set in motion already way beforehand in terms of the Arvizos or even the Wades or the Jameses. It's prior. It's not all. It's to pretend, with Wade and James, oh, we just met, and it's like, wow, we just had the same story, and then all of this, it's like, I don't know how the public does not see through that in that way.
Know it's
with the same exact lawyer, and their constant lies, and then being caught, and then changing their lies. It's just it's frustrating.
It's so infuriating and frustrating, especially when you have everything, all the evidence, concrete, undeniable evidence, proving that these are lies, disproving every fabrication, every claim made, with, both accusers once again getting thrown out, tossed out of court, and it's like, when the documentary came out, or on, and during its lead up as well, it was all over the front pages, like it was just everywhere. But then when the truth comes out and they get everything tossed out of court, where's the mainstream media? Where's all the front pages of the papers? Where's the headlines in the evening news? I mean, it's so infuriating. I wanted to highlight this message from Silky, just reminding everyone to please sign the petition about the investigation against Martin Bashir, and it is online, but it's also on Taj's Twitter. So, guys, if you haven't already signed it, please do look out for that and sign that.
And I didn't start the petition. I am not taking credit for it at all. I joined when I started spreading the news and all that stuff when it was already around 5,000 signatures. So I don't take any credit for it. And
I'm not sure who did start it, but whoever did, thank you. And
thank you very much.
Massive credit, massive gratitude. Okay, Taj, there's a question for you right here. Taj, do you know something about Mesero and the estate fighting against leaving Neverland?
I don't, to be honest. That's not saying that they're not. In terms of that, it's hard because Leaving Neverland still. I know there's a Leaving Neverland 2 that Dan is doing. It's a moving target in a way, because every month something comes out that like diminishes it even more. I think the narrative, to be completely honest, with Dan Reed's with Leaving Neverland 2, if I can make a guess, an estimate, like this is not, I don't know, I'm not privy to anything, but his whole idea for a sequel would be, because that's how I look at this Leaving Neverland, it's just a movie. So this is just a sequel. And if I could write the sequel would be, they've always been these victims, so they can't change in that way. Either it was going to be these victims becoming victorious and winning their court cases, but that didn't happen. So now it's going to have to be big bad Michael Jackson estate, who's Goliath against David, them,
right?
And how they keep getting injustice and from corrupt judges or corrupt, bias this, or they're just going to have to always play that victim role, because that's the only role they can play, because they have no honesty, no facts, no nothing to support it. So they just are trying to tug on people's heartstrings.
Yeah, and that's like what we were saying about they rely on doing that. It's the emotional manipulation. Is they make people feel like inclined to believe them, because, well, if you didn't, then perhaps there's something wrong with your your moral. If you can't, it's like putting on ET and well, you should cry at ET. Like it's totally that approach. And they got the whole score and all this melodramatic stuff. Like it's just a whole theater show. And as people are saying, if there is concrete evidence, if this is entirely legitimate, why do you want to spend 4 hours on this? Hasn't been done before in a document. 4 hours. I mean, it's simply to just lure people into their web, just to pull them in slowly but surely, and before they know that they're at the center of the web.
Well, I look at it, it's the same way that police use tactics with people in terms of getting them to what's the word? When they sign something to say that they did something, to
get them to make a confession.
They beat them down. They just literally beat them down, and they, with time, with just the same story over and over, they just beat them down to finally, it's like you're in belief that things will be better if I just confess, even though I didn't do it. And that way, I think it's that aspect, but opposite in the way they just beat down the public to the point where the public's like, they spent all this time on it. They spent all this energy on it. Why would they be lying? Which is the one line that I've heard. Why would they be lying?
Yeah. But why would they lie? I mean, it's just such a ridiculous question. Why would anyone lie about that? It's, I mean, it drives me mad. And, now they're going into, like, Dan Reed wants to do a part 2. I mean, seriously, if this isn't transparent, if this isn't just so obvious that this is just, them trying to make a big, cash flow from this, like some massive, it's a complete opportunity for them.
Well, my thing is, why wouldn't they lie? I mean, they're suing the estate. So that, here's a huge mega commercial sponsored by Oprah, HBO,
right,
and all these other channels. So why wouldn't they lie? Like,
exactly.
This is just, it's an endorsement for them. So,
absolutely.
And you got to remember, you're coming from someone that, and I got to switch rooms in a second, but
sure.
You're coming from someone that, I had a fake sister that, that was going around, a lady named Tanae, that was going around performing as Tito Jackson's daughter, Michael Jackson's nephew, for years.
And this was featured in the Jacksons, the Next Generation TV program. You guys,
and she even took a DNA test. Like, that's how much. Like
she let out the last minute when you guys were in the waiting room.
Yeah, it went all the way to the last minute. So that whole idea of, like, people don't lie, or why would people lie, is not something that I subscribe to at all, because I've seen it my whole life. I've seen the Billie Jeans or whatever that think they're married to Michael Jackson, or the paternity suits and all that stuff. I've seen all that crap before.
Yeah, and it's these narcissistic, self-entitled types, these deluded sociopaths, these compulsive liars. The average Joe will say, yeah, but why would they say that if it wasn't true? And it's like, well, you don't understand. Everyone's mental situation is not maybe as stable as yours. It's not that there are these crazy people, and as we said before, Michael was a target. He was a vulnerable target, and they just kind of gravitated towards him. These narcissists, these people that were just so entitled, thought that that the world owed them something, and that Michael owed them something. If he didn't do it, well, then hey, we're gonna make
here's how I look at it. Money makes people rob, steal, and kill. So why wouldn't it make people lie?
Exactly. The quickest, most simple explanation you can give, as some kind of metaphor is, the story of Lord of the Rings, the character Gollum. And even like Frodo, who was selected because he was the most innocent of all to be able to bear the ring in complete trust. And even at the last minute, he becomes completely consumed by, seduced by the power of the ring. And it's an incredibly powerful metaphor for real life, how people are in real life with their desire for wealth and fame and notoriety, and how toxic the desire for money is and what that does to people.
Let me switch rooms though. So
sure,
go ahead.
For it.
I'll still be listening.
Okay. Hi guys. All right. So Taj is just switching rooms. Thank you everybody once again. I am trying to get through as many as your comments as I can while still talking to Taj. I'm not the best at multitasking. Danny, my good friend Danny, how you doing? Yeah, look at this. What Reverend Al Sharpton said, wasn't nothing strange about your daddy. It was just what your daddy had to deal with that was strange. So yeah, and I was there then at Michael's memorial at the Staples Center. So thank you guys. Keep them coming in. We want your questions. I'll be sharing with you guys shortly the story behind Michael wearing my jacket that I made and designed for him in 2003, one of 3 jackets that I made and designed for Michael. You guys know about the Filthy Tabloid Press one. That was the first one. And then, of course, the anti-Bashir one, which due to the whole coverage with Bashir in the headlines recently, has got quite a little bit of circulation in the fan community with the photographs of Michael and myself wearing my jacket. And it's funny, because I wore that jacket around a whole bunch before, and people were always saying to me, "Hey, what does MJ do mean? MJ do what?" And I was like, no. It says MJDO. There are initials: Michael Jackson, Danny Oliver. If you look at the pictures, you'll see on the the left arm and the left chest says MJDO. So that was my trademarking right there. Mine and Michael's initials. And another thing that I was thinking way ahead of time, years later, like now, nearly 20 years later, I'm able to say, hey, that was my jacket. I did that for Michael. And, oh, yeah, look, see, that's why it says MJDO, there are initials there. Yeah, so I'll be giving you more of an insight to the story behind that and showing you the one and only replica that was made of that jacket, which I have now. Someone asked me the other day if Lady Gaga has that jacket, but I think the one that Lady Gaga purchased was the Filthy Tabloid Press jacket. I don't know if the one that she has is my actual jacket, because I know that there were multiple jackets made. When I spoke to Bush about it, Michael Bush, he had told me that Michael had requested 500 replicas, and he wanted to give them out to fans and stuff. And I think Bush only made 3 replicas of the Filthy Tabloid Press jacket. Hey, here we go. Taj is back. How you doing, Taj? All right. There's another question for you here that I'm going to put up on the screen. Here we go. From Sophie Jones. Thank you, Sophie. Taj, do you know anything about what's happening with Neverland, and do you think you'll ever be able to visit there again? Oh, Taj, we can't hear you.
Yeah. Okay, that's because of music. Yeah. I'm not really allowed to say. It's not a bad thing. It's a great thing. But
oh, cool.
Yeah. Do I think I'll be able to visit there? Yes.
Amazing. Just that one answer says so much and is extremely exciting.
I can just say I'm happy whose hands it's in.
Yes. Yeah. And as I think it's knowledge to many that the guy who has purchased it is someone that knew Michael and wants to, do honor to Michael by keeping it in a good way and restoring it to some capacity. So we're real excited about that. I mean, going back there would be, I'm only speaking from my experience, Taj. For you, it's hard to catch a fish. I mean, I went there a whole bunch of times, you know, and kind of went around and stuff. And we, you know, I was lucky because when I went in with a few friends, it wasn't like a usual fan visit. It was, you know, private, and we weren't kind of supervised the usual way. Because I think Big Al used to do those supervised visits a lot of the time. But yeah, anyway, going back there would just be, I mean, it would be magical, but it would be so bittersweet, you know.
Yeah.
Even around the time of like Michael's memorial in 2009 in July, and I went to visit there with some friends, and it was just like, you know, you could just feel that there was an energy that wasn't there, that was there before. You could just immediately feel the difference, aside from being aware of the obvious, you know.
Yeah, it's hard because there's definitely a difference in the energy with Michael not being there in general, but at the same time, because he was there so much, there is that energy around that place still of Michael. Every plant, animal, you know, tree, you know, anything nature wise, you know, if you believe in that stuff, there's there's energy there, and
100%.
especially the trees. And it's like, it was hard because, yeah, when the trial ended, you know, I was living with my uncle at that time, and so he went to Bahrain, and I stayed at Neverland for about another month and a half. So I sensed the energy change, like I sensed it that way. And it was right after the trial, so there's all this stuff anyway. But yeah, you can totally tell the difference in that.
Even like with Michael just being somewhere else in the world while you were still there in Neverland after the trial finished, and Michael was in Bahrain, even that alone, you could feel the difference.
Well, let me rephrase that, because when it's because of the trial, to be honest with you. I would say it started with the raid. Like, that's almost like, it would be the equivalent of you getting robbed at your house. Your house is never the same again. You know, that's what the raid. That's what that raid did to him.
Yeah.
And then now,
I remember Michael saying it was a home. It wasn't a home any longer. It was a house.
Exactly. And so that, especially if you spent that much time building it for good, and someone comes and destroys it, basically. Yeah. And so that would be because we spent many times, many birthdays at Neverland with my uncle not being there and stuff, where we've invited our friends and stuff, and it still had his energy. Like, you could feel him around and like that. I think the raid was one of the things that really started it, because you had these strangers going into things and, you know, knocking things over and just, you know, really
breaking things open, drilling into.
I mean, I got to be careful because of what I say, in terms of, I don't want it to be like accusing and then, like, you know, getting sued for something, but, you know, just the disregard for someone and their property in a way that it's intrusive, you know. And
absolutely.
And Michael was Neverland. Neverland was Michael, and so
absolutely, yeah.
It didn't have to be that they did that to him. They did that to his home,
right?
And, you know, I think some people look at a home as just a place, but when you build that home and you've built in every single piece of it, you put the puzzle there, then it's not just a home anymore. It's an extension of you. I'm sorry, it's shaking. I'm on an unstable bed, so every time I like move, like the camera shakes a little. So, you know, unfortunately, there's technology to fix that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were really trying to make a malicious statement as well, having 70 officers raid there. I mean, as Geraldo said, you know, himself, you're talking about somewhere that's been, you know, raided more time than the Pakistan-Afghan border. You know, I mean, what does that tell you?
They've wanted they've looked to show how the scope of Neverland, to show the images of from a helicopter point of view of it being raided. They knew, the media knew what they were trying to project. They knew this was like almost like a drug cartel bust, you know, from a foreign country. That's what they wanted the people to see, like, oh my gosh, they're going to get them. They're going to find something aspect of it. And then they come up empty and find nothing. And to know Neverland and know how big that is and extensive, that alone should have not warranted a case, because
I know
what you've noticed with other people, and I don't want to mention names but we know them in the media. Other people, when they get raided, there's tons of stuff found out about them, on computers or on, just files, folders. Remember, the raid was unannounced.
Yes.
It wasn't like he got tipped off or anything like other people did. He didn't get tipped off at all. The media got tipped off in terms of, I think it was Diane Diamond that was there before, everyone was almost reporting about it while it was happening. So certain media got tipped off, but Michael wasn't even in town at the time. So it was like,
he was in Vegas filming the One More Chance video, wasn't he?
So you would know that. I know it wasn't in town. That's where your knowledge goes far. I was there 3 days before, which is
wow.
I think it was 3 days before, celebrating an anniversary. So
wow,
that just shows how close things can be in that way.
My God, that's unbelievable. That's incredible. I mean,
imagine if I would have left something illegal or whatever. Like if I was a bad person, that would have been, they would have found something and said, "Oh, we found something in the guest units."
Right. And of course, again, just another reminder that your uncle passed away never knowing that for a 10 to 12 year period, he was investigated by the FBI, infiltrated. That means, they would have followed him, tapped his phones and so on and so forth, and found.
Well, we knew about the phones. We felt the phones just because it would you'd be talking to him and all of a sudden you hear this click.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we didn't know, it was almost like a paranoia. You didn't know if it was true or not, but it just felt weird. But we didn't feel like it was the FBI or anyone. We just felt like it was someone that was tapping the phones.
God, that's crazy. Unbelievable.
But it really didn't. Unfortunately, didn't watch what we said because we had already said stuff, and it's not like we said anything bad anyway. It's just like get used to it, and a 10-year period over a 10-year period is a long freaking time to do something and not.
You think this is a human being. This is like no one person deserves, especially a completely innocent, harmless person that's done no wrong to anyone. No one deserves to be subjected to this cruelty. No one deserves to endure this. I mean, even now, as we said earlier, nearly 12 years after your uncle's passing, it's just inhumane. It is so disgusting. And the fact that people get brainwashed and that people are just so willing, perhaps completely without even realizing, just to be spoon-fed, just to swallow whatever they're fed. I mean, I think as we go on, bit by bit, people are becoming increasingly aware of, how much junk is in the media.
It's twofold, Danny, if I can interject with my theory about that. It's, there's different generations. Certain generations grew up with media and they had journalists, and those journalists had integrity. Right. And so those journalists would rather have walked off the station than lie. Those are the old school people that still believe the media is trustworthy.
Right.
And there's the middle ones like us that are kind of like, we've seen both, and we're like, okay, we gotta do our research. And because there's good journalists, there's bad journalists, but we gotta do our research. And you gotta learn the truth. Then there's the younger generation that doesn't trust anything out of the media's mouth. They know they're being fed propaganda. And so a lot of the pushback of leaving Neverland came from the younger generation, the YouTube generation, with their own channels and their own facts and their own documentaries and stuff like that, because they're like, hey, we've seen you guys lie already. We've seen you push falsehoods, and we're not going to just accept what you guys say something is. We're going to do our own homework. And that's been the generation that literally has been not the most helpful, but just so helpful in this fight and struggle, because some of them aren't even Michael fans. They want justice, and
absolutely. The guy, I forget his name, but it's Hug the Cactus that you've spoken with before. He has a great channel.
Andy Sigmore.
Yeah, he's great for that. He's someone that just believes just in fair and square justice and equality and due process, and truth.
Well,
truth and fairness.
Once you show someone just a little hint of it, and open their eyes a little, like they see it right away. Like it's almost as everyone that's on this chat or on this live stream knows, once you open their eyes to it, they can't unsee it. They start seeing it everywhere. They start seeing the manipulation aspects of the media, and they see it, and then they start screaming to other people, and then other people can't see it until they open their eyes just a little bit. And it's just it's a cycle. But I can say without a doubt, more and more people are waking up to, you know, what Michael had to endure. And I think the Martin Bashir thing really opened up a lot of people's eyes in terms of like, wait a minute, let's go back and now let's look at some things now, because, you know, it was such a big I mean, 15 million people saw it in the UK, and 30 something million saw it in the States. You know, that's a lot.
I mean, it kind of flopped in comparison to what they hoped it would do, but the added damage was the fact that, of course, we live in the day and age of where people can watch stuff later on, like on YouTube or on like a streaming service like, you know, Netflix or whatever. You know, so those who miss, you know, it's like if you missed the Diana interview, you missed it, you know, unless you recorded it on VHS, you missed it. But now, you know, there are people, you know, who are tuning in like a year later, only just but you hope that by that time they've kind of clicked on, like I've seen things on YouTube, on Twitter, where people are like, right, only just got around to watching Leaving Neverland. Oh my God. And then, you know, fans are commenting like, what planet have you been on the past year or 2 years, you know?
Oh,
like,
I was talking about the Bashir thing in terms of the 15 million and 35. Leaving Neverland flopped. Yeah, Leaving Neverland flopped, like in terms of the numbers.
Yeah. Oh, but the Bashir thing was humongous. I mean, I remember the build up to it. So that was me in a moment switching to see which comments I could select. So
no worries. I don't know if I switched or you switched, but yeah, no, the Martin Bashir thing was hugely big, and that's what jump started all this. But then the Leaving Neverland was complete opposite. It was, you know, it was nowhere close to the numbers that they expected, but also they were promoting the heck out of it, you know, and all the lead up, and just watch the movie or just watch it. You know, Michael Jackson's going to be canceled. You'll never want to pick up another Michael Jackson album or just everything. You know, it was like a lead up to it. So
so much malicious, spiteful press on that. I'm just trying to. Oh, okay, random one because it's for you here, Taj. We have a question from someone. Victor93, when will we see a 3T concert on Blu-ray?
You know, people are asking about the pandemic and stuff like that. That's one thing that affected us as 3T, you know, me and my brothers, is that this is our 25th anniversary of brotherhood. You know, so we had a lot of stuff lined up as well in terms of traveling and in general. And now, because of what's going on, that won't happen. So it's interesting how things work. But yeah, I would love to. I mean, a full concert. We shot the stuff, so we have it. It's never say never. It would take some work. Hopefully, we have all the stuff to do it. Let's just say that.
Oh, great. Yeah, I saw. I think you were doing a live stream with TAJ kind of recently, and you guys were watching some footage. I think where you were like dressed up in some kind of girly stuff. I think it was in Holland somewhere.
Yeah,
and you were just saying like how, I mean, TJ was saying how he couldn't remember anything. You could remember most of it, and Taro remembers like every microscopic detail.
Yeah, Taro has elephant brain. Like he remembers things down to the detail. I luckily don't on certain things. Certain things I would love to have remembered more of certain things, but you know, it's almost surreal even thinking. Like sometimes I see footage of me in concert. I'm like, wow, you know, that doesn't even. I'm like, who's that person? Not like in a weird way, but just like it. I don't remember that. Like I don't remember being there. I don't remember.
Yeah.
So it is like looking at someone completely new, like in that way, and going.
And of course, when you look at that stuff and you think back to how your life was then and how different it is now, like you're a father, you're a husband, and you think, wow, like life was so different then, you know, like we were just touring and doing whatever, and you're on stage, and it's I mean, it must be an incredible experience for you guys.
It was, you know, the weird thing is it's very similar in that way, because, you know, my mom had just passed and we were doing this in honor of her, you know, the album and then the touring, and it was always her dream as well as ours. So it was bittersweet. It was almost like knowing she's not going to see it, but we're doing it in honor of her. And now here we are again doing something in honor of Michael, you know?
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. It's not really different. It's just deja vu in a way. I'm still doing something in honor of someone that passed, that in their memory, that I care about so much.
Yeah.
And so, and that was always my motivation, even with 3T. Like, it was performing with my brothers, but it was in honor of my mom. It wasn't, you know, it was a dream that we've had since we were kids. In that way. She was the one that always, my dad was incredible at teaching us stuff in terms of how to mix and how to master a song and how to play instruments and stuff. That was my dad, like the technicalities of music, how to harmonize. My dad was a champ in that way. My mom was the drill sergeant. My mom was the one that made sure we rehearsed. Like, if we didn't come home from school and rehearsed, we were in trouble, you know.
Wow.
And it's funny to see that was the role reversal. My dad was, you know, my mom was the Joseph, my dad was, you know, the Catherine.
Yeah, amazing.
And so, and it worked because my mom wanted us not to just have something handed to us. She wanted us to earn it.
Yeah, to really work for it, right?
And I appreciate that. You know, I don't expect things to be handed to me in that way. People might think that, but that's not how I operate. That's not, you know, I don't just think, oh, well, I should get this because I'm who I am. No, you have to earn every inch of what you get. I am not blind to say that I've been privileged and I'm in a different situation than other people are. And sometimes I have a lead ahead of people. Other times, if it's someone that doesn't like my family, I have a lead behind someone. You know, I have it's a detriment in a way.
Yeah.
So, you know, it all works. It all balances in some way.
But you guys would never be so arrogant as to purely rely on your last name, you know. And it's it's right that your parents were like, you have to earn this. You got to work on this. You know, you have to really work for it.
Our first record offer was when I was like 15 years old, and we just weren't ready. Like, because I was 15, so do the math. Tara was 13, TJ was 10. You know, we were so shy, we weren't ready, and thank God, you know, that there's an insight to know we weren't ready. And there's also my uncle in the background, basically not stalling us, but like wanting us to have that childhood, because I think he knew that, you know, it was too early for TJ and all that stuff. He would regret certain things. So we spent like 2 years doing our demo, you know, in that demo, I think progressed into the album in terms of that. But that's where Free Willy came in, and You Are Not Alone, or not You Are Not, You Are the Ones and stuff like that for the Jackson mini series, which was really the first thing.
Right. And who was the first label to offer you guys?
Motown, actually, surprisingly.
No way.
Yeah, it was Motown. Yeah, it was some guy that my dad knew at Motown that was still there.
Wow.
Yeah. The only reservation he had was that he's like, your boys are super shy right now. And we had to reflect and realize that, because we knew that. Like, that was like our first performance with someone. And and I'm thankful that we did not get that, because we weren't ready in that way. We weren't, you know, we were hungry, we wanted it, but like, we were so shy. And
so you had to be really pumped up and ready to take on the big crowds, because that's before you were showing like the footage of Michael, I think it was in New York, helping like walk you guys through like what you could do and different ideas, and like with performance.
We called him, we had our first performance of anything coming up for the Black Expo, and we were super scared, not because we didn't think we could pull off. We were super scared because we we weren't, there's a certain level, Jackson level, that you just have to hit when you come out.
You had to live up to it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just like you get to stumble and fall and people are like, oh, okay. They're still learning. It's like, you already have to be at that level, at least to the point where you're not embarrassing your family. And we called our uncle. He was in New York. If you do the timing, it was 94, 90.
Wow.
Yeah. So what album would he be on?
He would have been working at the Hit Factory recording History.
Yeah. So we called him and he was late, obviously, for his album. Very late because we heard the phone calls. But he flew us up there and he's like, I'm going to work with you on your stage presence.
Wow.
Commanding the stage, and I'm going to get you ready. And we had me and Terrell both had girlfriends that were dancers, and they had this choreography that was like more of a groove. And we do some of the choreography in anything. There is some parts that are in there still. So I'm very thankful for what they did. But then there's other parts like the intro that we didn't know what to do there. Like, when the da 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 da, when we're posing, we didn't know what to do there. And that was my uncle that told us what to do, and then the running the stage and like drop or the bag and all that was my
rucksack, yeah.
And he worked with us for 2 days, and I'll never forget that he dropped. I mean, you guys are probably not happy with it, but he dropped everything to work with us, and that was who he was. He was like, I'm going to make sure my nephews feel confident on stage to do this. And we did.
Wow.
And it was, that performance was a success because we went off and did more performances. And we actually shocked the label. They didn't know what to expect from us. And from that performance, they knew they had something. So
amazing.
But
and
that's
another testimony to how lovely and sweet your uncle was.
How selfless he was in that way. It's like he's getting calls from Sony to hurry up on his album, and then he takes 3 days off to work with his nephews, in that way, because he also knew there's a legacy. And he would always tell us, he's like, you guys are the legacy after me. You guys have to keep it going.
Right.
And don't think we don't know that. And so when people ask about 3T, we hear you. Like, we know we're like the legacy to continue and to keep the name going with Michael Jackson. It's not like he ends and then we begin. It's all encompassing. Everything, for every 1,000 people that learn about us through Michael, there's one person that learns about Michael through us. It's
exactly.
And that's always a nice thing to hear someone go, I was a 3T fan before I was a Michael fan.
Really? That's so cool.
Oh, I've heard that plenty of times, and it's like it's a nice thing because like, wow, that's someone that we introduced Michael to, or introduced her to Michael, or him to Michael. So it's just like,
that's so great.
It's not a close ratio, but it does exist in that way. And it's nice to hear that in that.
Yeah, I remember when we saw you guys, you were hanging out down the South Bank, and I came to see you in London, and there was some people there who were in a popular television program at the time, and I recognized them, and I started talking to them, and they were saying, yeah, like I went to see 3T loads of times in, was it 97 your tour?
Yeah, I think it was 96, 97.
Which is funny because it's around about the same time as the History tour.
Yeah. So we would jump on his tour and watch. That was the one thing that, not that I regret in life, but was the direct comparison. I was just never happy with what we were doing because we would sell out arenas. Our Brotherhood tour sold out, but then you go and you see one of his shows and you're doing 20,000 people, 30,000 people. He's doing 80,000 people. There's a big difference. And you're looking at least 80,000, and he's doing multiple nights. And you're looking at it, and you're like, so you never think you've made it. You always think, I got somewhere to go. I'm not going to be happy till I'm playing stadiums in that way. And so I never looked at it and go, wow, we've made it. Like we're doing well. Like, I love the fans and I loved what we were doing, but I thought that was just a beginning, not an ending, in terms of, I never felt comfortable and I never patted myself on the back then and said, you know, you've worked so
that's
hard.
Part of the perfectionist in you.
Yeah, it is in that way. But I was so hard on myself too. And looking back, like I can now appreciate what we did in terms of, you know, I've told the story, but I'll say it again in terms of we thought Brotherhood was like a failure because it only sold 3 million copies, you know, worldwide. And we thought it should have sold a lot more. And then my uncle reminded me, he's like, you know, your first album did better than our first album did. And then that put it in perspective because I thought he was lying, and I looked it up, and it did, and I was like, wow, that's a whole different perspective because I look at them as, you know, just legends,
the ultimate,
and it's like to know that, okay, wow, we did do well then, but it's just in hindsight, you understand that.
And were you able at the time to embrace it, absorb it, and appreciate what was going on, or you were like kind of too focused on like where you wanted to go? You know what I'm saying?
Always focused on where we wanted. Never happy. Never. When we were at number 2, it wasn't number 1. Like, so it was always, what are we doing to get to number 1? What are we doing? Instead of being like, wow, this is a fun ride in general, it was always like, okay, it was almost like a war where you're strategizing all the time as opposed to, you know, witnessing what's going on the battlefield. We just didn't get that because we were perfectionists, and number 1 is perfect and number 2 is number 2.
Right.
And it wasn't until I got older and started realizing that certain songs that I love of my dad or my uncle never even hit like top 10. Some of the songs that are, you know, in certain countries. And so, but you would swear that they were number 1 songs because they play so much. And so chart position is also based on radio play and all that stuff and advertisement. And so I stopped listening to chart position. It's what 3T and me have become now in terms of how I look at 3T is through the fans. Like, as long as they're happy, I'm happy. Like, I do it for them in that way because that's what I'm naturally like anyway. I like doing things for people. So if the fans love it, then I love it in terms of my performance or anything.
And of course, when you guys did get signed, it was to MJJ, to Uncle Michael's label.
Kind of, yes. We got signed to Epic first.
MJJ Sony, right?
No. We got signed to Epic first. We didn't get. We had no help from our uncle. Helped us on the demo tape. Like, he actually helped, fund our demos and stuff like that in terms of, and pick which songs were going to be on the demo and stuff like that. But then we got signed to Epic. And then while we were being signed to Epic, we actually signed with Epic. MJJ was formed, and then Gary Greenberg from MJJ had to convince Epic to let us go and put us on MJJ. So a lot of people think, oh yeah, they got signed by their uncle, like, and then the history, no, we got signed without him. I mean, obviously he funded our demo, so I shouldn't say without him, but you know what I mean. In terms of like signed, he's not like, oh,
it wasn't like
I'm gonna have my nephews be on my label. Like,
it wasn't like a favor.
Yeah, now it's still with Sony, so it went smoothly, I should say. But that's how it happened. So Didn't Mean to Hurt You was on MJJ, that song through the Free Willy soundtrack, but that was like the transition for us to be on MJJ in that way. So, which is incredible. Like, we knew the risk of being on our uncle's label, like never mix family and business. But at the same time, like, he was the perfect person because he understood us. We thought if we're going to have any kind of say or any kind of control, this might be the place to have it in.
Right.
Because other places will look at us as, I was 21, Terrell was 19, and TJ was 16. So we were still kids, in that way. So they're looking at us as like, oh, these kids don't know what they're doing, But
My wife was very good friends with the lead singer of another group signed to MJJ, Brownstone.
Yes.
And she was good friends with Maxi.
Yes.
Well, I say the lead singer, one of the singers. And I mean, she sadly passed away in 2015, just 2 years before 2 weeks before we got married. And but my wife was very good friends with her, and Maxie would always have like really amazing and sweet stories to tell about Michael, coming into the studio and stuff, and Michael signing Brownstone, and go ahead.
I was just saying, Brownstone was the first group that I think MJJ signed. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it wasn't us. So.
Yeah, because and it's funny. I was thinking to myself earlier. It's funny because people will say, and the media try and project this false narrative of how Michael wasn't proud of his black heritage and all this nonsense. And you think the act that he had signed on MJJ for you guys, and also for example, say because it's not like family even, but Brownstone.
Yeah.
Black girls. What people would generally class as quote unquote black music, R&B, soul, and then he co-produced Sisterella, the black
Tatiana. MJJ was
what about Tatiana? From Fresh Prince.
Yeah, I mean MJJ was. I mean Nathan Cavalier was. He was on MJJ as well.
Wow.
So there were some. Other people on there. Wade especially was on there. Which,
we won't talk about that.
Yeah, in terms of that, that's another thing. But one of the things my friend Clyde, who worked at MJ, would say, and he was very vocal when Leaving Neverland came out. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. So, but he wrote this long message to the Robson family, or Robson.
It was on Facebook, wasn't it?
Huh? It was on Facebook.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
And the reason I say Robson or Robeson is because I've always called him Robson, so I'm not changing it. Like whatever the right pronunciation is, he doesn't deserve it. Like
exactly.
I'm not going to correct myself in that. But he wrote a really interesting message that people should read, because he was there at MJJ having to deal with Joy and her demands of like, why isn't our car here, or the whole diva crap. He had to deal with that.
What we were saying earlier about that sense of entitlement. He had
to deal with it. And this is at the heat. This was him lashing out to them, knowing who they are, as people knew the Arvizos and how shady they were. Certain people knew how shady the Robsons or the Robsons could have been. And that was Clyde. Clyde made it known. And he knew that, he might get slack for talking out or speaking out. He didn't care because he knew them. He had interacted with them. He had to listen to them do this stuff. And so
and they were always the same types of people, weren't they? Like the Robsons.
Yeah, it was. Certain people get gifts and they appreciate it. Other people get gifts and they expect more. They keep taking.
Yes.
In that way. And I was talking to Brett Barnes one day. No stranger to everyone. Amazing person. I get so along with Brett because Brett was upset. Brett's like, how dare him? We had such a life. We were so fortunate to know this man.
Yeah.
Like I took every gift as a gift that it could end any day, but it was a gift. He
just embraced it.
Wade took it and now I'm stopping what he said, but Wade took it as, I want more. Almost like, you started here, now I expect more. You said I would be famous. You said I'd be the best director or whatever. And it's like, I'm not the best director, so it's your fault now.
Yeah,
it's entitlement, as you said.
Exactly, as if your uncle owed him something.
I'm sorry about the slant too for people. People are going to see this video. I'm just so comfortable. If I move this way,
get comfy.
So comfortable. It's like
comfy, man. However you're most comfortable.
And I know it still shakes, maybe, but I think we should talk about too, because people are starting to ask about the documentary.
Yeah, go for it.
And I don't want to get too far hour wise before people are like, dude, did he ever talk about the,
Right. TAJ, you can see the comments too, can't you?
Somewhat. I've tried not to because I've tried to let you be the.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I froze for a little bit. But,
you don't have to show. I mean, you can just click off the 3T concert one.
Oh, okay.
But they don't think I'm answering that.
Yeah. I'm technically advanced.
Oh, I've made that mistake already. But no, as I've told you guys, I'm shaking in terms of bouncing, but never stopped with the project. People that know me, that have been around me, that have talked to me, I'm working on this every day in terms of talking to someone, advancing. Yes, luckily in California right now, restrictions have been lessened. I think it's open now. What I want to do is wait 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks to make sure there's no spike, because it's a little too scary for me in terms of like, we just opened everything. We're like, hey, back to normal and all that stuff. And usually in the patterns of that happening before, that's not been a good thing. That's been a thing of like, the numbers have gone up. I'm hoping the numbers stay down. If they stay down, 100%, I want to start filming again, get going, because I have a lot of time to make up, in terms of with this, with what's happened. And I'm also excited and this whole energy thing in that way. So I'm excited to get going again in that way. And
yeah, of course. I mean, as you say, by no fault of your own, as everybody knows, there was a massive delay and there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing we can do but sit and wait. But now everything's been lifted. Hopefully,
if you want to do it, I mean, I could have done it on Skype or Zoom, but it's like it would have never flown in that way, and not for what we want to do and what I want to do in general. This has to be done right. This is for Michael's legacy. This is to cement Michael's legacy, and there's a certain bar of quality that this has to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Someone was asking me yesterday, how did you want to put it out? Like, did you still want to put it out? Kind of had you changed your thoughts on it? Like, did you still want to put it out as kind of like a documentary series or a 2-part thing, or how did you envision?
Bigger than 2 parts. I've always thought this is 7. I love the number 7 for obvious reasons. In that way, and this to me is a 7-part series. Like, the Michael Jordan The Last Dance was a 10-part series. The OJ Made in America was, I think, a 4 to 5-part series. So this is somewhere in the middle of that in terms of lengthwise. And I think Michael Jordan, their documentary, they interviewed like 80 to 100 people. And then the other one, they interviewed like 30 to 40 people. We're somewhere in the middle of that too, of what I want to interview in terms of how many people. Right. Because there's so many people that came into Michael's life that have stories to tell in that way. And I don't want to just focus on one family or one person or one employee or whatever. There's all these people that contribute to who Michael was.
Yeah.
And so it will take time, because that's a lot of people to interview. But at the same time, it's going to be so fleshed out that you're not going to get a one-dimensional character of Michael Jackson. You're going to get all these different flavors to the point where you're going to see him for the first time. Well, I shouldn't say we're going to see him. The public will see him for the first time, fully fleshed out in that way, which is exciting.
And of course, people need to see something where Michael is normalized, where he is
humanized.
Yeah, where just all the baggage is stripped away and people just see, the bare, honest truth. And do you think you'll, because obviously everyone's like, we need a rebuttal for Leaving Neverland. Do you think you'll jump straight into that first? Kind of attacking the claims of Leaving Neverland, or do you think you'll build up to it and do it kind of chronologically through the years?
It's definitely a through the years thing. The thing is that for this, we have to stop looking. I don't want to be aggressive because it wasn't aggressive, but the way I sounded aggressive. But we do have to stop looking at it as people get reactionary about something that's happening now, as opposed to this is Michael Jackson's history, his future, and his the past. in a way that this will live on way past us, in a way. So something like a Leaving Neverland might not even be this significant in the long scheme of things, unless you address it and make it that significant. In that way, because as we've seen, I mean, look how many people forgot about the Martin Bashir thing. We didn't, but look at how many people did forgot about that, and that was what? How many years ago did you say that was? 15?
No, that's just 18 years ago.
18 years ago, and look how many people forgot about that and like have hazy memories of that. So, in the 2 years that Leaving Neverland has come out, that's even been more people have woken up and learned about Michael and learned about the truth. In that way. And that had more scrutiny in terms of it. So
I think with your thing, like what you're saying about doing it chronologically through the years as well is cool, because part of what makes people so ready and willing to be so ignorant and able to believe anything that's said about Michael, like with Leaving Neverland. Oh yeah, well he was always weird, wasn't he? I'm not surprised. And the thing is that because they've had generations, decades and decades of an accumulation of all these crazy rumors and scandals regarding your uncle. So when you do it chronologically in your piece or pieces, you're building up from 19 whenever to 2019, 2021. And little by little, you're stripping away what they said this year. You're stripping away the rumors about that, the elephant's man's bones, that the excessive surgery, vitiligo, all of this, right? So by the time they get to where you're approaching Leaving Neverland, it's already stripped all that away. So already people are more inclined to go, okay, so now I want to hear what he has to say about this. Right, now I get it. That's lies.
Exactly. Great point, Danny. And not only are they more inclined, they are looking at it differently. Just the same way.
Because I think of him as a human being instead of like some kind of cartoon character.
Well, if you think about the public that believes Leaving Neverland, they're looking at Michael already as a monster, as Jacko, or as, because that's how they were conditioned in the tabloids.
Like freak, because they've been conditioned. Exactly.
The Michael fans that saw Leaving Neverland as a fraud right away did their homework, so they were conditioned to not take things as face value and almost like a detective look at it and go, okay, what are they trying to sell me? What are they doing to manipulate me and this and that? And so it's just all the difference of a background of what you go through. And so the reason it's 7 parts, because you have to go through that journey of who Michael Jackson truly is, to know that if you know Michael Jackson, which is any employee that has stood up for him on Facebook, Twitter, there's so many colleagues, employees, friends, family members that have stood up for him for leaving it, but it's not newsworthy, but there's so many because they know they don't say, well, he was my friend and I hope him the best. They say, no, Michael wasn't capable of that stuff.
Right.
So there's that disconnect of what the public thinks Michael's capable of versus what people that knew him know what he was capable of and not capable of.
Exactly.
And that's how,
Go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Right. No, I was just going to say, like you saying that, it kind of makes me think back to like when I was on this morning and I was sitting on a couch, kind of quote unquote contending with someone who A, didn't know the history of these accusers, B, didn't know the history of these allegations, C, had never gotten to know Michael as a person, as a human being, and D, had never been to Neverland. And I'm sitting there saying, no, listen, you don't understand. I've been there. Like they said, oh, and how old were they? Interjected quickly. How old were you when you first went to Neverland? Expecting me to say 13 or 14. No, I said 19. Oh right, okay, 19. Which immediately breaks away your junk narrative, right? And but it makes me think as well. Like the second time I went to Neverland, and I was saying on the television program that time on this morning, like I just remember looking around and seeing all the incredible things Michael was doing for all these people who, like, he didn't have to do any of that. Like he was simply being a sweet, lovely person. Period. Plain and simple. And I remember just I burst out crying. And you know, I had a whole bunch of friends that worked at Neverland. And I didn't want them to see me because, you know, I didn't want them thinking I was being like really kind of fanny, you know, like crazy and hysterical or whatever. And so I buried my head in my friend Nima's shoulder. And he said, "Why are you crying? Why are you crying?" And I said, "Look around you, man. Look around you. I mean, seriously." I was like, he doesn't have to do any of this for anyone. He's like, but guess what? Tomorrow, the outside world is never going to get to hear about this. It's never going to be in a newspaper. It will never be on any news show. It will never be on the television. No one will ever know about this except us. I said, tell me how we live in a world where someone so beautiful and so loving that wants nothing more than just to be giving and caring and sincere can be so deliberately and so maliciously misinterpreted and made out to be completely the opposite of what he truly is. How is that real? And that just broke
the heart of the series. But that's the heart of the series, because people, I look at my uncle completely different than other people look at him. Other people look at him as Michael Jackson, the entertainer. You know, I know the fans, you know, love his humanitarianism. So I'm not, but I'm talking about the public. They look at him as what he contributed music wise. I look at him, I've always looked at him as an uncle first. Right. And for me, that is what I miss the most. That is the beauty of him, was how amazing of a person he was. And so that is the part that I don't want people to forget. His music will live on. I don't want people to forget him, the incredible person he was, the person that, you know, was the first person to pick up the phone and either donate or travel somewhere to do something about something, in terms of whether it was earth related, in terms of like helping kids related, or just caring related, in terms of just being a decent human being, which is the reason we're dealing with leaving Neverlands and stuff like that, is because people don't have that mindset anymore. People aren't empathetic anymore. People are all so selfish. It's all about them and how much they take, that they can't imagine a person like Michael Jackson who gave stuff without taking.
Yeah, selflessly, without wanting anything in return.
Without wanting, they can't fathom that a person could exist like that. So they have to make up that he was grooming, that he was because they
surely he must have been doing it for this or for that, like, you know, because after all, we only give to get, you know, that's
because that's how they think in that way, and that's how they were conditioned. And so it would be a crime if I did this series and it didn't talk about how amazing a person he was, and amazing, you know, just the magic. When people say magic, when they refer to Michael Jackson, it's not magic in terms of like, oh, you know, it's magic of the energy around him, and just how he was such an amazing human being that it bettered you. Him being in your life made you better.
Right. Yeah, there was something about Michael's aura, his presence, his energy, something very unique and very, very special.
And very dangerous to certain people. That's the thing too.
Yeah, for sure.
Because let me just say that, and then you can go off. I think Michael can be controlled, you know, and that's the thing. You know, what we're seeing is that when you have a certain energy and a certain and people are following you and listening to you, and I don't even want to say mimicking you, but mimicking you in terms of like, you know, you're a good person, so they want to open up a charity or they want to donate. It's like when they start doing that, that's when the biggies swift, you know, come in, and they're like, we need to control this person, because now this person needs to be controlled by us.
Right.
And Michael was bigger than that, and they couldn't control him, so they tried to damage him any way they could.
Yeah. They tried to break him down.
Yeah, and in a sense, it worked, you know. But that's what they did, was they tried to literally destroy him through other means. They took his Achilles heel, his caring for kids and wanting to help kids, and they turned it against him.
Yeah. I just think it's such a crime, you know, that one person was subjected to so much cruelty and suffering, that he endured as much as he did. And I just think it's a terrible, terrible thing that more wasn't done to help him in terms of you know, like people watching his back, like for example, after the death of Diana, you know, like Michael, he did the interview with Barbara Walters, and people were saying, you know, there needs to be a law made. Like we need to put our foot down. This line you do not cross. We have to make new laws where you are not allowed to be intrusive. Like these are human beings. These are people who sleep, who cut, who bleed, just the same as we do, who eat, who drink, who get tired. Like these are just people. These are people. These are human beings, regardless of how, you know, whichever lens you might look at them through. You should not be allowed to intrude on them, and you know, harass them. And like, you know, in that interview, Michael's like, you know, you're in the bathroom and under the door, and you go, oh my God, they actually did that. You know.
No, and it's interesting because there was public outcry when with Princess Diana in terms of trying to change laws and stuff like that. But then people have short memories, and people
eventually the dust settles, and you know, it becomes what we call chip paper, like fries. You know, like
I didn't know that. Yeah, that's
we say like today's news is tomorrow's chip paper. So chips meaning fries. Like over here, sometimes when you have a takeout, they wrap them in old newspaper. And so, you know, that's what it becomes. And people forget, as you say, the dust settles and bit by bit it fades away, and they kind of slowly creep back in, and they get back on their motorcycles with their cameras, and they hit the ignition, you know?
Yeah. And that's basically what happened. And so I, with everything, knowing that that's a cycle and stuff like that, this series for me is about longevity. This series is to make sure that Michael Jackson's legacy, his legacy of caring, his legacy of music, all those rumors, all those tabloid things are stripped away and debunked. Now I can't debunk every single line of some paper that, you know, someone said about Michael Jackson. You know, we'll be here for hundreds of hours. But I'm talking about the big ones, the ones that influence people, the ones that people still regurgitate today in terms of certain things. Those need to be debunked. It's almost like, I say it's like a cancer. Like you can keep doing the medication, but you have to eventually go in and do the surgery to remove that cancer in that way. Because that the media has been a cancer to Michael, and it be removed in that way. And so that is what this is. It's a journey through Michael's life, but showing the manipulation of the media and other things and people that have taken advantage of him to the point where it's made him who he was, but through it all, he still became this amazing human being that wanted to help people. It's a travesty. It's a tragic story, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at my uncle, and it's the reason I didn't want to be completely famous. You know, there was a subconscious moment where I was like, do I want to be that famous? Because I see what he went through. I see all the pain he went through, and I know I would never want to be that famous. I never want to be even close to that famous.
And that's the thing, is like there's fame, and then there's what your uncle was, or still is, you know. And I, you know, with his fame and, you know, all the malice and the lies and the slander and the trial, I just truly think anyone else in his position would have just died in the process. Like they long before, they just would have thrown in the towel and said, man, forget this. I'm sorry, I did not sign up for this. Because it's like, you know, every time Michael put out an album or had a new project or wanted to do something good, it wasn't just a matter of doing it like anyone else would do it. He had to do it while he's fighting through, you know, like he's hurdling over one thing over the next, like from stuff that's been thrown at him that could, you know, potentially turn the public against him or jeopardize his sales. So it wasn't easy, but I just truly think that anyone else just would have, you know, it's like Razorfist said. I mean, it's a miracle that Michael made it to 50 with all he endured.
Yeah. Well, I would say that the thing to be abundantly clear, there's no fans like Michael Jackson fans. You know,
right? Absolutely.
And I think that's the thing too. The love that you guys had for him and he had for you guys is a different love. Like I think people look at fans, and when I say people, I'm not we try and mimic that with 3T. Like we've grew up that way, you know. So we really truly appreciate fans. But some people look at fans as monetary things, like, you know, just people that can make money for you in that way. And my uncle never looked at fans like that. He looked at them as family. He looked at them as friends. Maybe family that he didn't know yet, you know, but he looked at you guys all as family, to the point where he cared for each and every one of you. I saw that footage, and I've seen in person times when my uncle's gotten angry, and it's always been because someone's driving too fast and might have come too close to a fan or something. It's always been a protective nature for you guys. And so, you know, it's like, you need to slow down. You're going to hit the fan, you know, like, it's always been that.
And you truly felt that.
You know, and I've always loved him about that. It was never like, you know, I love my fans and then get in the car and like, oh my God, you know, they're so annoying, you know. Never once. It was always that love. Anyone that knows him knows that. Everyone that knows him has been consistent with that. He cared about you guys, and not only cared about, and I know you guys cared about him too. The love I saw from you guys is just, it's what propelled him and kept him going. You know, I think it was always that energy source in that way. You know, that person that you can go back to that re-energizes you, or that to recuperate from. Like, the press was just the opposite. They were that negative person that was trying to always destroy him. So it was the balance of the two.
Yeah, no, it was always sincere. And, you know, but, you know, just as you say, there are no fans like Michael Jackson fans, of course, you know, there was no one like your uncle, you know. And so I think everything we gave was just a big slice of our gratitude, just a little something to say thank you for all you give, all the inspiration. We've been talking about Bashir earlier in the evening, and I've had the thumbnail on a comment from an old friend, Dexter, who I haven't seen in years. So hi, Dexter. And I just want to put this up because it's asking me to talk about the jacket that I made for Michael. And I did tell folks that I'd delve a little bit into the story and give some insight into Michael wearing my jacket and the whole story behind that. So you guys may remember Michael wore a Filthy Tabloid Press jacket, and like I mentioned earlier, I spoke about it briefly, and he had some replicas made that Bush had done, and then he had one from me. I'm not sure if that's the one that Lady Gaga has or not. I know that Michael wanted 500 of them made, but I think only about 3 got made, 3 or 5. But anyway, so then in 2003, end of 2002, I started to design a jacket that is exactly as you guys, well, not exactly, almost exactly as you guys know it and see it. Don't waste your cash in that filthy tabloid trash. And it's got the censored sign. But initially, in the censored sign, it said Sony, because at the time, Michael was having issues with his label Sony, and there was all these, you know, these like rallies and stuff against Sony, and them boycotting Invincible and all this kind of stuff. And so initially there was Sony in it. Anyway, and then 2003 hit, February came. As you all know, the Living with Martin Bashir documentary hit. And so and it's funny because I remember exactly like sitting up in bed about midnight, 1 a.m. with like my knees kind of up, you know, with a pad of paper on my, and I still got the original design, and drawing it out, and then scribbling out the Sony and saying to myself, no, it's got to be Bashir. It has to be Bashir. So I scrapped Sony, and the only thing I changed, I still had my initials and Michael's initials, MJDO, on the arm and the chest, and the red and white diamante sequin armband. So everything was still the same. The only thing I changed, and I wanted the whole baseball jacket look because it was kind of like the Filthy Tabloid Press jacket. So I still wanted that same kind of look. And then the only thing I changed, of course, was just scrapping Sony in the censored sign and putting Bashir in there instead. And it's funny because when I was doing it, I had visions of it hitting the headlines. Like I was drawing it. I mean, my imagination's wild, man. Like I even went as far as, you know, switching on David Letterman and David Letterman talking about it and asking me what. But basically, I was envisioning that it would cause a stir in the media. The media would catch on and make a fuss of it. And of course that did happen, because when I came back from LA at the beginning of September later that year, you know, my mom said, hey, you know, go out to the shop and get a newspaper. I said, why? She just said, just do it. And I don't get newspapers, you know.
Yeah.
And of course I could see why. It was splashed all over every tabloid. And it was brilliant. They were making out like Michael had done it because he was so upset. And it was just hilarious to see. But it really made a stir, which is kind of what I wanted to do. It was like I wanted Michael to have it, and it kind of being an indirect middle finger up at them, you know, at the media and, you know, the tabloids and Bashir. Anyway, so I designed this jacket, and it was all put together, and I was wearing it for some months, and people would kind of go, hey, what does MJ do stand for? You know, like I'd be in a store and people would be like, so what's all this about? Okay, yeah, the whole Michael Jackson thing. Yeah. And then we would talk about the documentary, and it would spark a conversation. And what's MJ do? What MJ does what? No. It's MJDO. This are our initials, Michael Jackson, Danny Oliver. And I also did that because just in case years down the line, if it circulated, then I could say, hey, that's my trademark. The DO is for Danny Oliver, Michael Jackson. And of course, that's what I'm doing now, is it's circulated more and more around the fan community, especially now with the headlines regarding Bashir. But I had gone to Neverland, I think 2 or 3 times that August. Michael had invited us in. He had just come back from taking Prince to the dentist, and he was pulling up in his black Bentley. I'll make the story short for now. I'll dive into more details at the time. But he was coming back from the dentist, and he pulled up in his black Bentley, and he invited us in. And I remember when he drove past, and I was kind of holding the jacket up, just in case it was him, thinking, no, it can't be Michael. You know, and of course it was Michael, and he invited us in, and me and a few friends were there, and my friend Nima was driving the car, and we were like, huh? What? This was the first time we went in, and we jumped in the car, and we couldn't find the keys, and we were screaming like, no, you had the keys, no, you had the keys, oh my God, of all time for us to lose the keys, no, you know. And eventually we found the keys, and we followed in, not too far behind Michael in his black Bentley. And so I had been wearing the jacket. This would have been August 26th, I guess, August 27th, maybe 28th, around that time. So I was walking around the ranch, and like I said, it wasn't like the kind of usual supervised visit, you know, because Michael had invited us in personally, and I knew like a whole bunch of people that worked there. And, you know, like as I said before, you know, I'd known Big Al since I was 14, and he would like often call me from the fire station on his breaks and stuff like this. And then, you know, I'd bump into him, and I'm like, oh, okay, so this is where you call me from, you know. And obviously, you know, I'll go into the whole Neverland story another time for anyone that wants to hear about it. But we were in the theater lobby, and there's just, you know, Christmas decorations everywhere, you know, in August, which is super cool. And anyway, so all the staff were coming up to me and commenting on the jacket. Oh, I love your jacket. I love your jacket. Wow. And it's really cool. And then Michael was kind of, you know, floating around in the golf buggy, but kind of preoccupied, I think, with some family, because it was real close to his birthday. So I know that he had visitors there. And anyway, so fast forward a few days, and we were in Beverly Hills. And it was just after Michael's 45th birthday bash that was thrown. It was like a big show Michael attended. And anyway, we were at the Beverly Hills Wilshire Hotel, and I was in the garage with Michael's limo there, and he was sitting in there with Omar. And then Michael saw me, and he because by that time he had, you know, recognized me from over the years, and we had met a whole bunch of times and spoken on the phone, and I performed for him a bunch of times. And then so he saw me, and he pointed and kind of did this to call me over, And then when that happened, a huge rush of fans, like a swarm of bees, just went straight at the window. And so I just backed off, and I quietly signed to Michael behind everyone. I just quietly said, and he went like that. So he put the window up, and as I went around, the window went up, and the fan stayed there. And then I was on the other side on my own, and he brought the window down. And he said, "Oh man, I love your jacket. What's it say? What's it say?" So I read it out to him, and I held it kind of like this. And this is the one and only replica that exists. And I said, "That's the replica, you guys, that was made around the same time." And Danny, I said to him,
"Take me off real quick so that they can see it fully."
Okay. Well, do I just hit the single screen?
Yeah.
Okay, right. I'll do that. 1 second.
So they could, so they could see it.
All right, you guys. So this is the replica. This is the back. I don't know how well you can see that.
Pretty well, yeah. It's better.
Yeah. So yeah. So I said, it says, "Don't waste your cash on that filthy tabloid trash," and then it's got Bashir in the censored sign. Yeah. And he was laughing so hard. He went to the top of his voice, and he leaned his head back because he was laughing so hard. And I remember clearly seeing the roof of his mouth. He was like, "Oh," and he goes, "Oh man, I love it. Oh my God." And I said, "Michael, do you want it?" And he went, "Wait, what?" And I said, "Do you want it?" He goes, "Well, you're going to give that to me?" And I said, "Hey man, sure, it's your birthday. Like, it's a birthday gift. It's for you, man. I made it. I designed it for you. I mean, sure, go for it." He said, "Are you serious? Honestly?" I said, "Yeah, man, if you want it, have it." And he goes, "Oh my God, I would love that." And then the car started backing up. And he said, whoa, hold on. Don't go anywhere, Danny. Stay there, okay? Stay there. And I'm like kind of thinking, man, seriously, where else am I going to go right now? Like,
yeah.
You know? And I said, "Yeah, sure. So he backed up. And then he had the window down, and he said, because then the fans started swarming again, and he said, Joey, give it a," and was Michael's security guy. You remember, he kind of looked like Johnny Lawrence with long hair.
Mm-hmm.
You remember Joey? He's kind of young.
Vaguely. There's other security I remember a lot better, but yeah.
Yeah, he was super young, and at that time he was kind of one of the heads. But anyway, so Michael got out the car, and I handed him the jacket, and I said to Joey, "Hey, tell Michael that MJDO is for our initials, Michael Jackson Dan Oliver." And Joey said, he knows that. I go, "Okay, cool." And then of course he put on the jacket, and like everyone was going nuts. And there's a cool video of that too. That I'll put on my YouTube channel in a few days for you guys to see. But he just absolutely loved it. And every time I would speak to him or see him from then all the way through to 2009, every single time I would see him, you know, he would talk to me about his jacket, and he would say, "Hey, I still got your jacket. I love it." And I even remember during the arraignment in January 2004, and Michael's in the car with your Aunt Janet and your grandma.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this jacket with me, and he was like nudging Janet and your grandma to say, look, that's the jacket and he was calling me forward to the car, and it was just magical. And I remember speaking to Bush outside the courthouse during the trial, and Michael Bush had told me, "Hey, by the way, speaking about your jacket," he said, "I got to tell you this." I said, Michael Bush said, "You know, every day before we come to court, the first thing Michael puts on when he wakes up in the morning, and the last thing he wears before we get him dressed to come to court, is your jacket." I was like, "Wait, what?" He said, "I cannot tell you how much that jacket means to him. It just lifts his spirit." And he said, Did you know, like you got something like the Diamantes on it and stuff, right?" So he said, Michael Bush said, "Did you know that some of the Diamantes were coming off? Did you know that there was some battle damage to it?" And I said, "Yes, I know, I'm sorry." And he goes, No, that's the great thing. He said, "It was testimony to how much Michael loved your jacket." He said, "You know, I got a call from Michael one day saying, 'Hey, Bush, listen, I got something that needs maintenance. I want you to fix it for me.' and I want it done as soon as possible. So Bush just said, okay, sure, send it through. So he said within the next few days, he got a package in the mail. He opened the package. It was from Michael. Lo and behold, it was my jacket with a set of instructions to tidy it up and basically put on the right diamantes, fix it up wherever it was kind of battle damaged, so to speak. And he said, like, you know, in the beginning, Michael would wear it. And because Michael was so childlike in so many ways, sometimes he would just take it off. And, you know, without being disrespectful toward it at all, he would kind of take it off, you know, pull it off with the arms inside out and just kind of drop it in its place and walk off, right? And Michael Bush would end up having to pick it up. And so he just said like that Michael absolutely loved the jacket and he would wear it every morning before going to a trial day. And it was the first thing he put on in the morning, and it was the last thing he wore before they got him changed to go to court. And for me, that was just like, wow, you know. And even like I said, all through the years, from then all the way up to when I last saw him in 2009, he would always talk about it. I still got your jacket. I'm taking real good care of it. I love your jacket. I'm keeping it safe. And, you know, and I had a jacket of Michael's as well. So, you know, he would say like, you know, in return, make sure you look after my jacket. Okay, take care of it. I said, I will. I promise. I have it in good condition. And so it was just a real sweet thing that we'd go back and forth about. And he never held back or hesitated in expressing his gratitude for it and for his admiration. And so kind of for the first time on such a platform, in a nutshell, kind of that's the story basically behind me making and designing the jacket for Michael and giving it to Michael, and Michael's love for the very well-known anti-Bashir jacket.
I love it. I love that story. I was going to ask you how you felt, but you mentioned it, how you felt about it. That people don't realize. Yeah. No,
go ahead, man.
Oh, no. I just said people don't realize that he kept all your stuff. Like whether you guys made posters, and he's like, he would stop, you know, the car and say, I want that. And he'd roll down and then someone would go and pick it up. He kept all that stuff. Like there's hangers and airplane hangers of fan stuff. Like he kept it. You know, other people would have been like, you know, that it would have never made it past that city, you know, would have been thrown away or whatever. He kept that stuff. And I think that was so testament to when he wanted something, he really wanted it. And really, it was his then, like at that time. So if you made him something, and I constantly would see people make certain posters for him or whatever, and he rolled down the window or he pointed at it and security picked it. He had that stuff. Like it was in his possession. It was not something that he wanted for the day and then he threw it out and it was the hotel room.
Or he wanted it just to make you feel good. Like he genuinely loved it.
If he stopped and pointed, that means he wanted it. And I learned something about my uncle. Like if he stopped and made that effort to go get something, it means he wanted it. And it was in his hotel room for that whole period of time, and then he would take it home, you know, or whatever. It was, so he accumulated all this stuff over the years, but it's also, I think he loved the fact that you guys had spent time on stuff for him in that way. It was such an honor for someone to know that he's creating the stuff for you and you guys are creating the stuff in for him as well.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first gave him the Filthy Tabloid Press jacket, and he went around HMV in Oxford Street in London with Macaulay Culkin shopping, wearing it. And then about a week later, Michael flew to Austria, and I had a friend email me saying, hey, Danny, I just saw these my friend Gail. Mm-hmm. She said, I just found these pictures of Michael in Austria. I'm sure this is your jacket, isn't it? And lo and behold, he was wearing my jacket. He was wearing it outside in the cold snow in front of the mountain. He was wearing it indoors on the couch. And I was thinking, like, man, of all the jackets he could have worn, I mean, that's some real gratitude. That is sincerity. I mean, truly, you know, and it's crazy because, you know, it's like with the anti-Bashir jacket as well. You know, I would go into stores, I would go to the cinema, You know, it would just be slouching on the end of my bed. You know, just like a normal clothing item. It would hang in my it would hang in, you know, in my closet, and next thing you know, Michael's wearing it. But he's not just wearing it; he's taking it with him, and he's wearing it other places. I mean, and that really resonates, because then you know, like, wow, he really does sincerely like it. Like, he's not just
it's
doing
not just for it's not a one
yeah. Some real sweet messages here, just to kind of divert slightly, just from Flavia, just saying, Taj, you've been such a great strength, and yeah, of course, man, we appreciate everything. We appreciate everything,
guys. I mean, the thing is that I get my strength through you guys as well. In general, I mean, you probably can tell I've gotten not much sleep because I have a 3-week-old now. Well, going on 1 month soon. In 2 days, it'll be 1 month with Toria. We named her Toria Catherine Sco Jackson. So
amazing.
I cried like a baby telling my grandma that I named the middle name after her. Like, I just
and how did your grandma respond?
Oh, she was so honored. It was over the phone, and I did see her in person later on, but I had to tell her over the phone first. There's something about my grandma. Whenever I just tell her how much she means to me, I just start crying, just because she's such an amazing person. I can see where Micah got that selflessness. My grandma doesn't expect anything in return when she gives you something or does something for you. It's not that she's like thinking, okay, I'm going to do this, and then he's going to do this for me. She's not that person. And so I see that in her. And so she's done so much for me and for my wife and for my wife's sisters, and just in general, that this baby wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for her, because she made our relationship so easy because of all the technicalities and all the, you know, logistics of where to stay and all that stuff. She moved mountains for us. And I would have named the first one, but my wife had in a dream that Taylor came to her and said that her middle name was Aurora. And so so that's why it's Aurora. So that's why it's not Catherine. The first one was because
Aurora, that's like, the character from Sleeping Beauty, isn't it?
I think it is. Yeah. And I love that name as well. And I couldn't complain. I'm like, oh, well, if she said it, then that's what it is, you know, and that's what it's been. And I can't see it any differently. But I knew with this one, I wanted the Catherine name to be in there, just because of so important to me in general. And and so that's why, you know,
I think it's one of the highest honors, like, to name your child after someone. I just think it's testimony to how much that person means to you. So it's such a great thing.
Yeah. Well, you know, and the thing is it's these children, you know, Taylor and Toria, they motivate me because I don't want them to grow up like my cousin had to grow up with rumors of Michael Jackson and false Michael Jackson, because they should celebrate their relative for the amazing person he was, and not have to live in this tabloid trash that we're living in now.
Yeah.
And so every day I look at them, I'm like, we're changing this. We're changing this for the future. Like, we're going to make this better for the next generation that can just celebrate the man and the music and not have to worry about the crap that the media is trying to.
I know it's just, it's exhausting, but it's worth the fight.
It's completely worth it. And that's what I was telling people, like with Taylor, like, you know, I went to the UK to do the Great Britain, you know, Good Morning Britain and all the other stuff that I did, you know, early on when Leaving Neverland came out. I went there I think Taylor was only 2 months old.
Yeah.
When Leaving Neverland came out. But it felt completely like the right thing to do. It wasn't like I was like, oh, well, I'm going to miss Taylor or whatever. I'm like, no, I'm fighting for Taylor's legacy as well.
Absolutely. You know? It's a sacrifice that you had to make.
And Taylor, you know, now, because, you know, some people sit back and they just let things be, and I couldn't do that. And so, you know, that's what I love about Taylor dancing to my uncle or whatever. It's like, because You know, they couldn't cancel him. They tried. They tried their hard. They tried every evil trick in the book, every ammo they had. They tried everything. Some people are uncancelable because, you know, they have the support of the fans,
right?
Family, friends, and I don't know of anyone else that could have withstood that. I didn't want to say abuse, but that direct onslaught. I mean, it was lined up against us. We all know that, you know, whether it was, you know, the Sundance showing where all the newspapers around the world were like, oh my gosh, this is going to end his career. You know, this is, you know, no one's going to want to listen to another Michael Jackson song. All that crap that we had to deal with.
Yeah.
Or whether it was the Oprah interview, you know, or the Oprah, you know, and all her friends tweeting about it, and, you know, or all the Hollywood people talking about it and trying to cancel him. It was all the stuff that we've, as a community, has had to go through and fight. And I'm always thankful because you guys were there, because I easily couldn't have done it alone. And you were on TV, as you know, and they try and ridicule you and make you.
It's the whole, you know, it is a conspiracy, you know, like what they tried to do to me, which we've spoken about before.
Why don't you share that just real quick with people, because some people might not.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, in March, beginning of March 2019, I think it was the day that Leaving Neverland was going to be premiered on UK television. And Taj, I think you were in the UK at that same time, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
And so I got a call and a request the night before to go on the most popular morning TV show in England called This Morning, and they asked if I could go on. I said, yeah, sure, definitely. And they spoke about a fee. I said, listen, I'm not interested in a fee. I just want to have a platform where I can just project forward the truth. And they said, okay, but our producers want you to come on, because they were aware that I did like Michael tribute shows, and they had said that they wanted me, the producers wanted me to go on dressed from head to toe as Michael. And I said, okay, wouldn't that be kind of inappropriate, since the subject matter, regardless of who it involves, is such a very serious and sensitive subject matter? And I said, yeah, but you know, they would just rather you do that. And I said, listen, I'm not looking to be made a mockery of, and I'm definitely not looking to offend anyone. I'm there only to speak about the truth of this case. Mm-hmm. And they said, okay, well, we'll have a think about it and we'll let you know and we'll call you back. I said, okay. And then a few hours later, they called me back and they said, yeah, you definitely have to wear the costume. If you don't wear the costume and the wig and everything, then it's a no-go. And so I just said, okay, fine, I'll do it. And they went, okay, great. Well, listen, we'll see you tomorrow and we'll pick you up at whatever time. So then I was just thinking, okay, I need to figure out a way to work around this. And I said that, you know, maybe I could, like, you know, go on looking like a clown, but speaking the truth. It was better than someone else going on looking like a clown and becoming intimidated, put on the spot, feeling under pressure, not knowing what they were going to say. And I was very confident that I could articulate myself very well, very eloquently. But then I thought, no, wait, hold on. I just cannot go on dressed like that. And a friend of mine.
Why were you so confident?
I was confident because I knew I had the truth on my side.
Okay.
And
because I mean, there's a confidence with that, with, you know, like approaching interviews when knowing that you have that truth, and not your truth, you have the truth behind
exactly.
you.
Forget about my truth.
No one can take that from you.
Yeah, man, for sure, exactly. And that's. And
I didn't want to interrupt your story, but that is something that people that know Michael have that other people can't take away, because they're just guessing at what Michael is as opposed to knowing who he is.
100%. It is, you know, when you have the truth and you know that you're not deluded, you know you have the truth, the one and only truth, the only version that exists.
Yeah.
Of that, right?
Yeah.
The truth, not my truth, not her truth, not the truth, right? then that is an unbreakable, impenetrable iron wall.
Yeah.
That cannot be broken down. And so I didn't give a damn who they were going to sit me next to on that couch. I thought, it could be an abuse victim and they're trying to, make me feel awkward or uncomfortable. Or it could be, I don't know, whoever. I said, but it doesn't matter. All that matters is that I'm going to say my piece. And I was very particular about, kind of articulating myself in such a manner that when I was jumping from one sentence to the next, I didn't leave enough space for them to interject because I wanted to say my part, right? And so I was very particular about doing that. I thought about doing that so I could get full sentences out and not have anyone say, yeah, but what about? And I could just hit the nail on the head. I just wanted to go guns a-blazing, but in a very dignified and respectful manner. And anyway, but I, like the night before, I still had this thing like, okay, listen, I cannot go on. I have to find a way around this. And I spoke to a friend of mine and he said, listen, you cannot do this. He said, even for yourself alone, he said, it's career suicide. No one will hire you again if you want to look at it from that. He said, you don't know who they've got sitting on the couch in the morning. He said, you could be sitting next to an abuse victim. Imagine how that would look and feel for them. And I said, I know. He said, you have to figure out a way you're going to do this, but you cannot do it. You've got to figure something out. And I said, and he said, and I was saying, like, it was just a clear effort to dilute any truth for Michael. It was trying to create this wall of, like theatricalities of a circus act that people wouldn't be able to get past that wall and hear the truth. They wouldn't take it seriously. Why would we listen to someone who dresses like that on national television? I mean, so it was an obvious attempt at that, and all because it was Michael. And so anyway, I got there the next day. My wife was super, super nervous. It was our anniversary, our 4-year anniversary that day, and my wife was super, super nervous. She said, but what are you going to do? I said, just chill. I got it under control. Just relax. Don't worry about anything. I said, look, at the end of the day, I'm not going on there dressed up. Period. And I'm going to figure it out. It's going to be fine. Just have faith. Don't worry about a thing. And she said, yeah, but what if they send you back? I said, listen, I ain't at school. Forget it. If they send me back, they send me back, whatever. And I went there and I asked where the toilets were. And I just stayed in the toilets for a real long time. Yeah. Like I made out like I had some real bad stomach cramp. And I came out. And then I said to, like, when I arrived there, I did call their bluff. Like, I pulled out the wig and the jacket. I was like, yeah. Look, I've got this and that, and it's all good. And then I went to the makeup room and I just said to the hair and makeup girls, nah, I don't think I'm going to do that whole wig and like the whole dressing up. Oh, really? Yeah. And then I just made something up. I think I said, a friend texted me who said that her friend texted her and said, if I did that, it would just be so insensitive. And they were like, yeah, actually, you're right. Yeah. Okay. And I went and sat in the green room waiting to go on. And the researchers came by and the researchers had the absolute fright of their life. They expected to see me like contoured makeup and wig and jacket and glove and everything. And, they just saw me like, plain white, bright blonde hair. And they were like, Danny, what are you doing? And, my legs were crossed. What? I'm sitting on the couch like this, like really cocky, And I just said, what? And he said, the wig. Like, where's the whole dress? I said, listen, I'm not going to do that. It's not necessary. I don't feel comfortable. They said, but you agreed to do it. The producers want you to do it. And I said, yeah, listen, I just think whatever I'm going to say, it can get across just as clearly without me dressing up as if I was dressed up. And they said, okay, well, I have to speak to my boss. He's not going to be happy. And I said, okay, speak to him. And I deliberately timed it so that, if they suddenly changed their mind, it would be too late to get anyone else in.
They didn't have enough to,
Yeah, so I kind of didn't want to leave him with the option. So I timed it just right, especially with it being rush hour. And I kind of left them cornered, and then they came back out and they said, well, can you at least like wear the hat or maybe the jacket? I said, have you looked at this thing? I said, look, it looks like it's been beaten and thrown under a truck. I'm not going to do that. And then he said, oh, okay, well, we wouldn't want you to feel uncomfortable. I said, Oh, really? Well, that's good because I ain't doing it. And then said, oh, okay, then we're going live in 5. And then I just walked on and did the interview.
Yeah, it was an amazing interview, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
I looked at it because, I mean, we've known each other longer and gotten to know each other, but that was like one of my very first introductions to you in terms of who you really were in that way. And it was amazing. It just was like, you're very articulate. You could tell that you can tell yourself anything. Like you knew, your stuff. And it was like, there's a certain confidence that was unshakable. It was like, well, you guys need to get on my page because here I am. I'm not going to dumb it down for you guys. You have to, you guys have to do your own homework,
Absolutely.
And I just, I appreciate it. And that was the thing. And I think I even reached out to you to tell you about that I liked your interview or something.
We did. And I appreciate, I thank you for your kind words. I appreciate you saying that now. And of course I appreciated it when you reached out to me then. And, but it makes me think, again, I shouldn't have had to go through that whole ride beforehand. I should have had to do what every other guest had the privilege of doing, which is just relaxing and focusing on the interview. Instead, I had to do this whole shenanigans and kind of, weave my way in and out. And again, it's like what we were saying earlier about Michael, and it's all because it's Michael, only because it's Michael,
Exactly.
And I'm proud of the way I pulled it off, and I kind of took authority with them in because my wife was saying, but what if, and I said, they're just people.
Yeah.
So what, they run a TV show, who cares? They're just people. Forget it. And that's the way I had to look at it. But I also have to give massive thanks and acknowledgement to all the fans, everyone on Twitter, like Razor Fist, Charles Thompson, all the fans, you know who you are. I mean, we're one and the same team, and we all fight for the same thing. We fight for Michael. We advocate for his innocence. We fight for truth, for justice, for love, for righteousness, and and we're getting there. Like more and more and more, as you say, Taj. More and more people are discovering the truth. Are really kind of becoming enlightened.
We're doing it very indie style. Like we don't have the massive bucks of the majors, or the media, but what we have is the will, and we have and we have the strength and numbers, and that's how we're getting our message across. That's how we're getting the truth across, is by every person that learns the truth, they become someone that then spreads it to someone else in that way, and that's why we're seeing results. Because once you learn the truth, you don't unlearn the truth in that way.
Exactly.
Real quick, I do have to respond to someone that said, Andrew Green asked, you're not going to find it. You might actually, but he asked about.
I'm so sorry, everyone. Listen, I promise with time I'll get better.
Great stories, but I just wanted to answer because my wife he asked about how does my wife deal with like losing time, that I don't spend with my kids and stuff like that, doing interviews and podcasts and whatever. But she's been such a champion about it because she understands this is about our family,
Right.
She's very proud of it. She's liking every interview I do in terms of like on Facebook. She's helping spread it. She's very proud of the Jackson name as well, and of our kids in that way. And I'm very fortunate to have someone like that in my corner, because it could be the opposite. She could have made me feel guilty for spending so much time, doing all of this and doing interviews and stuff. And it's not,
and that's very thoughtful and considerate, Andrew, because of course, with your wife being that supportive and that understanding, that then enables you to go out and do what you got to do, and it all kind of intertwines and merges. So my head hadn't really gone there, which I feel kind of stupid about. So massive thanks to
massive thanks to Tiana. But I do feel guilty at times because I do miss out on certain things in general. But I look at the bigger picture, for me at least, in terms of this is a legacy. This is my uncle would do this for me, and I'll do it for him, because what do you give the person that has everything? And he had everything. I always promised him that I'd be there for him. And now that he's not here any longer, that promise never went away.
Yeah.
I'm still looking for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Taj, it's incredible because I mean,
no,
the difference.
Sorry, I'm a little too comfortable. My gut's showing and everything.
Go ahead and lay down. We're good. We're good.
Yeah.
No, seriously. You know, with you from the family, you know, standing up for your uncle and representing the family and your uncle and helping to amplify the truth and kind of being like a matriarch of the fan community, really, I guess, you know, because it's just so incredible. And I think how much less of an impact we'd be making if you weren't doing what you're doing, you know. I mean, and I know like it's a funny kind of thing, because I wonder sometimes if you must feel kind of under pressure to some degree, because I know fans are always looking to you for answers, or when's this going to happen and when's that going to happen and how are you going to do this and how are you going to do that, and kind of looking for you to take the lead and so on. So it's an incredible responsibility, and you know, of course, everyone has so much gratitude to you for it.
For everyone as well. Soldiers of Love, I did answer that already. Yes, once COVID, the COVID restrictions are going down, so I am planning on starting filming again. I'm watching it like a hawk. Yeah, I think that's the same. In terms of making sure, because they reopened California kind of, I don't want to say prematurely, but a little. I would have done it in stages, and they kind of just opened up everything. And so I want to maybe possibly wait 2 to 3 weeks just to see if those numbers go like if they spike or if they're stay stable. And if they stay stable, then 100% I want to get going in terms of filming again.
Yeah. Andrew's asking if you've taken the necessary precautions to protect yourself during COVID. And also, weren't you saying as well that there would be more costs for the productions if you did everything during COVID because of insurance or something?
Yeah, well, you would have to get specific insurance, and or I think you also had to hire someone to take temperatures and everything like that, and to, you know, administer tests every day in that way. And, you know, with what we were dealing with, that just wasn't going to be a possibility. In that, yeah, those restrictions have disappeared in now, because productions are starting up. It's just, I just want to give it 2 to 3 weeks, and then, you know, for my own sanity, because certain people started already with productions, I just want to make sure that the numbers say that it's okay, and then I'll be there.
Yeah, it's a crazy time. I mean, you know,
we keep fluctuating, they keep going up and down. So it's like, you know, right when we think we're getting better, they go up. So I want them to stay down, and then if they stay down, because it's like stock, they stay, you know, it's got to stay a certain place to know it's stable.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, we just want to make sure it was like at the end of last year, we thought we were moving forward, and it was like, you know, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. So, and of course, everyone, as you're, you know, well aware, you have to bear in mind also that, you know, if Taj goes out, is, you know, got to make sure he's 100% safe, peace of mind, because of course he's coming home to his family and his very young children. So he has that responsibility.
Yeah, and Tiana right now, she's breastfeeding, and they don't know they can't give you 100% what that would do to the child if she's vaccinated.
Yeah.
There's not enough studies. They don't think anything would be the case if she's vaccinated and she's breastfeeding, but not thinking that it'll be the case is not good enough for me. Like, I need to, you know, I'd want to be reassured that there's no side effects for my new daughter.
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, there's so much more to it than people would initially think. Yeah, someone was asking earlier as well about why oh my god, Carol Lemaire was sat with David, the Arvizo's dad. But of course, I think we kind of indirectly answered that because it was she had befriended the family because their kids were in the same tap dancing class. So
and David was someone that was not was realizing what was happening. He wasn't a bad person. He was a good person in that way, in terms of he was warning and aware.
I think as well. What PB? Sorry, I'm just trying to focus on the on these questions. See if there's any.
The comments are great, and thank you guys for the comments for both Danny and myself. You know, Danny needs to see this stuff too, because you know he's done a lot of work and stuff behind the scenes, and we talk a lot about just the legacy in general, and we come from a different point of view. Obviously, I notice a lot of Michael fans are empathetic and empath people, in terms of they, you know, there's something about them that they just care beyond just the music. They care about people, or a lot of them have done charity work, or they just have a different connection than I think other people. I mean, look at we're here 10 years, 11 years after he passed, and we're still as committed in that way.
And that says so much. Doesn't that say so much?
It says so much, and he deserves it. And so why I'm saying that is because I understand you guys get treated so bad by the press, belittled, crazy fans, and I notice it. I see it, the newspapers, even if it's something that I've said as well, they never say the family and fans. You know, they'll say just the crazy fans have said this, or the crazy fans demand this, or because they don't want to put my name in there, because then it seems like a family member cares as well, or a family member. It brings validity to it, and they're that way. They want to make it sound like you guys are off on your own planet in a way.
Yeah. And sorry, Todd, you have to forgive me. I'm trying to.
Not as easy, is it?
Anyone out? I feel terrible if I missed someone. Guys, listen. I just want to say, I just, if I haven't put anyone's questions up or comments, please forgive me. I don't want to feel bad. It's not because I'm ignoring you or nothing, but I'm just trying to do my best. I'm an amateur with this right now.
I'll help you. Yeah. He is a leader for empaths. I think he's a leader and an example for empaths in that way. I've always tried to live my life like Michael lived it, in that way of not the fame aspect of it. My uncle always thought of fame and fortune as a way to help people. I mean, if you look at coincide, the more money he made, the more money he donated. So it's not, you know, it's just, he never looked at it as like, I'm going to make all this money and become I'm going to go into Forbes and be this blah, 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 and be number da, da, da. That wasn't what was important to him. What was important to him was making a difference while he's still on this planet.
Yeah. And it's infuriating that years later we're still having to put up this fight. But like we said, it's a fight worth taking, and it's done out of pure love and the fight for truth. You know, it's like what I was saying in my interview. You know, it's not a case of, you know, I love Michael Jackson and he's the king of pop and the way he moonwalked. No, it's like, you know, you stand for truth and justice the same way that you would against anyone the victim of bigotry or prejudice. You know, it's not right and it's unjust. Period. I think, like, in years to come, decades, you know, like history books, you know, folks are going to be looking back at us as the ones who had it right all along. And, you know, when it wasn't popular to listen, or when it wasn't popular to you know, like with how Martin Luther King was always ridiculed in the media. And then at the time, you know, the truth was revealed and history looked back on Martin Luther King as a hero.
Muhammad Ali, you know, in terms of because of his protest for Vietnam, you know, you know, and then now looking back and realizing what Vietnam was and that we shouldn't have been there, you know, all of a sudden he's a hero for standing for his morals and standing, you know, standing his ground and not being influenced to go to war when he truly didn't believe in going to war. And he gave up everything for that. He gave up his championship belt and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think, you know, it's what sells. They want to sell the you know, the controversy. They just like the dirt. They just dig for dirt. And unfortunately, your uncle has just always been an easy target for him, you know.
An easy target, and I don't even think it's an. I do think it's an easy target, but I don't even think that's it. I think he's always provided monetary things for them. Like they know that people are going to click on it. So if you're dictated on clicks and making money, then Michael Jackson's name will do that for you in that way.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh wait, sorry. I'm just trying to. Someone said about what let me see here. Okay, stuff's coming in quick, and I'm just like, whoa, I'm trying to keep up.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between Martin Luther King and my uncle in terms of, you know, I mean, just to show you, Martin Luther King was assassinated. You know how, you know, the people we forget because he's got a holiday named after him now, and we celebrate him every year, but that wasn't the case back then in that way.
Exactly.
And now people look at him differently.
It would have been very unpopular to do that, but as time went on, you know, as we said, that like people look back differently. People look back with shame, and you know, but it's kind of like all throughout history.
Yeah,
you know,
that's what I'm saying. Like that's
when lynchings were legal. Like lynching was a legal practice, you know.
That's why when I look at this series, though, I'm not making it just for the current generation. I'm making it for future generations too, because you know, I don't want someone from the future who didn't know Michael Jackson to guess what Michael Jackson was like off of all these tabloid stuff. I want to already have that in mind so that they can look at this series and go, okay, we know how he was like, because here's the documented stuff of how he was like. And it to become, I always use the word encyclopedia, but it is why I say encyclopedia, because encyclopedia had that name of being kind of based on fact, and it was not gossip. It wasn't, you know, we think this, it wasn't theories. It was just straight facts and I think that's what is needed in this is let's cut all the crap out. Let's cut out the tabloid stuff. And when I say cut out, it doesn't mean I'm not addressing it. It means let's debunk it all. Let's expose it, and then let's move on.
Absolutely. I mean, you think of like the effects that Square One alone on Amazon Prime has had. You know,
any of those have been amazing, you know, particularly Square One, but any of those, every documentary, every video that a fan or someone that is sick of injustice creates on Michael has been extremely effective, because someone learns the truth from that and someone else goes off and then they talk to their family or they talk to their friends. And if their friends say anything, they can go, wait a minute, I think something different, or I heard something different in that way. And so I think it's always important, and never underestimate the numbers of, you know, the one good thing about, or the one policy I had when I did started doing interviews, I said I didn't care about if it's the #1 show or if it's some YouTuber with 20 followers. You know, someone could see that and get the information the same way, whether it's the #1 show or it's the 20 followers. Someone can see that with the 20 followers, and that 20 followers can get 1 million views, just like that #1 show could get 20 views. You know, it doesn't, you don't know where those views are going to come from. You don't know where people are going to see it from. So I tried to do as many as possible.
And by the way, guys, while we're on the subject kind of like Taj's documentary and how he wants to like approach it and everything, please remember to make donations to Taj's GoFundMe page to help contribute to that, because all of it helps. And
and the reason why we're able to start up again has been because of the donations and stuff like that. I have always said I've never stopped doing this project. I'm not going to. The only way that I would fail this project if I got sick and passed, because that would be the only thing. This is a driving force. I'm doing this for not only the family, I'm doing this for my uncle.
Yeah.
You know, as a thank you to him. I want him not only to be proud of me, but to know that I contributed a huge part to his legacy in that way is such an honor. And it's so, I don't want to say I see the future or anything like that, but I know this is going to be so important for his legacy. And I'm excited in that way because we won't have to deal with all this crap again. We won't have to deal with the rumors and all that stuff. This can really debunk everything in that way if it's done right. And when I say done right, that's why there's 7 episodes, because I can make it into a quick movie or whatever, but it will be
meticulous. You have to. There's so much to debunk.
Unfortunately, there is when it comes to tabloids, when it comes to just in general, because my uncle was so complex in a good way, but also in a way that I would be cheating him if I did only that little time.
Right.
I mean, I look at it as like, 7 episodes is a good start, but that's not saying, and I don't hold me to this, but I've never thought of this as a one and done anyway, with that, because I just looked at this as the beginning of opening up the conversation of like, wow, look what we did to Michael Jackson. Look, we had, as I forgot the person that said this, we had him, it's like he was there.
Maya Angelou?
Is that the one? I love that. It's like we had him. We didn't appreciate him.
Yes.
And that's not what I don't know the exact thing. Now I'm not quoting her anymore. I'm just saying that like we did have
it's kind of like a little bit reminiscent of when Madonna was saying like even she felt guilty that she let him
down. Yeah.
Yeah, like fall between her finger cracks.
Yeah, and it's very true. I sleep at night knowing I did everything I possibly could have done because I was always there for him. Luckily, I was fortunate to be in a situation where when I knew of something like the trial or the first allegation / extortion attempt, I was able to fly to him or be there for him.
Yeah.
So I have that in mind of like knowing that I was there for the times that he needed me to be there for.
Yeah.
When I could be. And so I can sleep at night knowing that, but at the same time, I still need to, there's this question. I don't even say question mark. There's still like a small question mark about his legacy, and that needs to be erased,
Yeah, absolutely.
And that way, until that happens, I won't be happy.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to get to a place where if anyone asks any questions, you just be like, hey, do you know about TAJ Jackson's documentary on whatever network? Yeah, just check that out. You'll get all your info there. And it's.
I hate calling it a documentary, but you're right, it is a doc. But it's like the reason I hate calling it a documentary is because like there's certain rules to a documentary, in a way that it's just been established. Like, and I don't want the media to hold me to those rules because I don't want to adhere to those rules. Just like my uncle didn't adhere to the music rules of like, oh, this is only you're black, so you can only do this music, or
right,
you're black, so you can only do this category of music. And he didn't believe in that. It was like, no, I do music, and so I'm making a movie or a series about Michael Jackson. I don't want to be adhered to. Oh, well, this documentaries do this, and they have two shots of close up and a wide, and you have I don't want to be limited in that way. What I'm doing is telling the story of who my uncle truly was. And that's all, because I want to be creative as well. And I don't know, the document, I just feel like they've had 30 days to make up lies about, or 30 years to make up lies and tabloid lies about my uncle. Yeah. And I don't want to spend half of the series giving them that platform anymore. Like, this is about not who they think Michael was. This is about who Michael was.
And in terms of guidance or advice, is there anything your dad's offering you in terms of like, what to do, what to look out for, or the approach?
For this project or just in general? No, because the guidance that I have for this project literally comes from my uncle from the past. Growing. a lot of people don't know that I went to school for TV production, like college. That was something that I wanted to major in, and so I've loved TV and film since I was probably 15 years old, and that was the bond that I shared with my uncle. We talked about movies, we talked about angles and all that stuff, and watched movies together. So and then discussed them, dissected them. So
Wow.
in terms of knowing what he would like, I'm hoping I'm hitting all the marks of what he would like.
Yeah.
In that way.
Really well, man.
I know what he doesn't like, so I'm just avoiding those, in that way. But I'm trying because I want people to as well feel like he was part of this, because he is. Like he was part of this production, even though he's no longer here. He's still part of it because all these people that are getting interviewed care about him and love him.
Yeah.
And so he is part of it. It is the nature of it. If you watch this and you don't feel the love of Michael Jackson, and you don't feel the energy, and you don't feel anger about how the media treated him and manipulated people, then I failed in that way. I want there to be anger. I want people to be like, how dare the media lied to me for 30 years.
Yeah. And I'm confident, and I know the fans are too, that you will reach that height, man, and you absolutely will not fail. I have massive confidence.
Well, I have an incredible team behind me, as you know as well.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's about building a team. We mentioned Charles, and things, and people were commenting about Charles. I have, so many people that I admire in a way that have dealt with this whole Michael thing, with the public or without with the media. They've had to either deal with it through the media, or they articulated it in a way that was so easy for people to understand. And so my thing has been build that incredible team of people, and then compile it, and let's make the greatest thing on Michael that we can.
Absolutely. He deserves no less than the best.
He really does, and not only does he deserve it, it's a lot of. I just go back when I stop and like my eyes roll. It's because I'm reflecting in the past of like how just the excitement of doing something with him was with him. Like he always pushed me along. He always was like wanting me to shine when it came to TV and film and all that stuff. And he was always like, we're going to do this together, and I've told the story about the last words he said to me, but it's like, that is the driving force of it. It's like, I can do this for him. And it's so, I've gotten, it's the stars have lined up in that way. And I don't mean the stars in terms of people like famous people. I mean, the stars have aligned in terms of the stars in the sky have aligned where I am able to do this. I'm able to do this in terms of I can do it. I have the equipment to do it. I have the support to do it. And I have the story to do it because I've been there. I know this story. I lived this story. Exactly. This is my story. This is my story just as much as Michael's story. There's certain parts that I don't.
Better perspective to have it than from yours.
Well, or my grandma's. Yeah, my grandma would be probably the best perspective. Exactly. I'd be a very good perspective too. Like but that's the thing, because there's certain things where I jump in, like from the 73 on. Like I know, I was very, very much part of my uncle's life, to the point where I know the ups and downs. I know why the downs were the downs and the ups were the ups. And it's like, this is going to be so exciting for other people that think they know everything about Michael. They're going to hear certain gems and from certain people that they've never heard from, and don't even realize this in that way, that because they have never been public before, they've never talked about it before. And those are the people that
No, go ahead. Those are the people that what?
No, those are people that people will probably be fascinated about, the hidden gems.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the folks who might not be so well informed about Michael as the average fan.
Well, that's why I wanted to do the sheer number of interviews, because I feel like things like Leaving Neverland had 2 accusers and their family, and it's like it's very easy for them all to be on the same page,
Right, exactly.
and you know, especially when money's involved. But when
Yes.
you have, you know, 40 to 50 people, you know, telling you who someone is, and they're consistent, then you have to look
And
at
those
those.
people haven't been in the same room, or corresponding via email about, how should we
All
say this?
different nationalities, all different people, all different
All
ages,
different walks of life.
all different walks of life, and they're all, and that's what's happened on Facebook and whatever. But the media doesn't pick it up. You know,
Yeah.
when Leaving Neverland came out, all these people came out saying Michael's not like that. You know, Michael's incredible, but the media never picked it up. So it's
The most frustrating response to that is, but that's your story. But that was your experience with him. It's like, oh God, please be quiet, stop.
And I always say to people, or people that say you weren't there and whatever, but then I say you look at, then compare the people. You know, compare Wade and James and do some research on them, and then do some research on the people that are saying the other things, and see whose stories add up, or see who's credible and who's not credible. You know,
Yeah.
go ahead and compare me and Brandy to Wade and James and see who's incredible and who's not.
Exactly. And
Like, go ahead.
And that's so annoying when people just are so automatically inclined to, question you, put you on the spot, not give you the benefit of the doubt. Or sorry, not kind of be inclined to take your side, but then they'll interview the accusers and just, there's nothing but all this empathy and awe and empowering them. And you think, like you say, well, you weren't there. It's like, well, hold on a minute, neither were you, and I was there a lot more than you were. And hey,
I was there a lot more than you were,
but neither were the accusers. They're making it up,
And because no one was there, in terms of that, then you really have to. Then the credibility of someone really matters.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that don't just give them a free pass because they say something. Study their credibility, and you'll realize they have none.
But it's like what I was saying before, like in my interview that time, is like, they had timed this perfectly. They had been, coming up with this for like 5 years, and they had timed it perfectly. They had deliberately hijacked the Me Too movement. I mean, knowing full well the climate insensitivity of today's society, and knowing that anyone who might reasonably question their claims would be called a victim shamer, or they hijacked the Me Too movement, and they would exploit.
No, they said they made it an example of anyone that came out that had a name or whatever to support Michael. They victim shamed them and made it an example of them to scare the rest of them away.
And it was dangerous territory for a lot of people to come out, and like if they were like, well, my career's on the line, and of course there were many that did, but who did come out and defend Michael, but a lot of people, they don't want to be hit with that brush, and
they came out behind the scenes. That's why I always said in interviews and live streams that we're getting a lot of support behind the scenes, because we still were. They just weren't publicly saying that because they were scared. And so that's the benefit I had over a lot of you guys, was that I could see the support of a lot bigger than you guys could, because
amazing.
You guys weren't seeing a lot of these big celebrities saying, I know it's baloney and whatever, but what do you want me to do, or what can I do, and whatever, in that way. So we saw that as a family. We saw that. So that's why I seemed a lot more confident than you guys sometimes at certain periods, is because I knew it wasn't getting to everyone. I knew there were certain people that were fighting back, or at least now it's kind of more common for celebrities to wear that shirt or dance to Michael Jackson. But you got to remember, there's a time when like that was even forbidden. It was almost like they were just trying to crucify anything associated to Michael Jackson. Like, how dare you? And
that's crazy. Yeah. And now, you have people who are kind of indirectly speaking out against like Leaving Neverland and all that, by being very, very openly supportive. For example, on social media, like Chris Tucker, MC Hammer, you know, Snoop Dogg, all these people, and a whole bunch more. You know,
to be fair with those three in general, they've always been like that. They're the always been category. Like even when it was scary to do so, Snoop and MC and Chris, they never wavered. You know, there's others that have been more vocal that, and I'm not going to name them because then people will get upset at them. But there are people that have been there from Madonna's been there from day one. Like when she was interviewed, her interview, her comment was very important because she's like, you know, I've gotten false, whatever. I forgot exactly what she said, but she put it in terms of her perspective.
She was like saying like, she's been accused of stuff as well. And is there any evidence to give any credibility? In the interview, I said, well, what would you regard as evidence? She said, well, for example, are they looking to gain any money from this? And the answer was yes, you know. And yeah, absolutely. Celine Dion, Mariah Carey. So there are these people that but
it's funny. It's mainly music people, if you noticed, in that way. It's
it
almost
is.
like,
You know, there's do you know that actor? He's been in a few really memorable roles. He was in, I forget his name, forgive me. He was in Independence Day. You know, he's like the dad who kind of sacrifices his life and drives the ship into the big mothership.
Randy Quaid.
Hello, boys. You know, and he's the guy in Kingpin, from the Mormon family. He's like really supportive of Michael on Twitter. But you know, a lot of people are. But as you say, it seems to be mainly music folk.
Well, I think that's because
people that knew Michael, you know.
There's people that knew Michael, worked with Michael, that actually hung out with Michael. But it's also, you got to remember the HBO is a huge monster in the industry. And if it's the movie industry and you're an actor, and there's only like 4 places you can go, you know, and you take HBO out of the equation, now there's only 3 places that you can hopefully be hired from. And so
and even like HBO, you know, you could be doing, for example, a Warner Brothers movie, but you know, you want it on a HBO streaming service like HBO Max. So you still got to, they still have to watch kind of, you know, just try and be understanding from their perspective. Like they still got to watch like the cracks on the pavements, you know, like where they're walking.
Well, it's your livelihood. And so I think what we saw was a lot of, in the music industry, a lot of legends or people that had solidified their career that could care less, you know, if people were
exactly,
because they knew the truth, and they were, as we've said, they were like, no, you're not going to tell me who Michael was. I hung out with this guy, you know, I talked to this guy,
right,
and then,
exactly.
Well, don't tell me, you're a complete stranger, don't tell me who you think he is.
Absolutely. Big shout out also, because we're mentioning a few people, and I know there's so many, but to Questlove, he's massively supportive.
But that's what I'm saying. Like those are people that have done homework and like actually, you know,
Questlove even spoke about Square One on a live stream.
Yeah, but he's also a family friend, so, and I think that helps too, in that way, because
I didn't know he was a family friend.
Yeah, there's certain people, but yeah, I always say HBO had Game of Thrones in their corner because Game of Thrones, the last season hadn't come out yet when Leaving Neverland came out, and so all the big Hollywood trades were at HBO's bidding, basically.
Yeah,
it's like we didn't know that Game of Thrones, the last season, was going to flop like it did or be as horrible as it was. No one knew that. So, and I know how the industry works. It's almost like, well, you know, if you don't support Leaving Neverland, then you're not going to get you're not going to get so-and-so from Game of Thrones, or you're not going to get this interview from Game of Thrones, or, you know, that. So it forces those people to write articles that they normally wouldn't write, or that they didn't have to write, but would write anyway to make HBO happy. Just like HBO intervened with the Forbes article and was trying to get it changed with what's the Forbes article that came out originally with Leaving Neverland, the great one that, oh my gosh, what's his name? So you guys will probably help me out on that. Joe Vogel, I think. Was it him that did that?
Yes.
From Forbes. HBO intervened on that one and had him change it, or tried to change it.
Really?
And Forbes stood by Joe, but then Joe had a follow-up that Forbes didn't print, that no one would print.
Wow.
So
I mean, that's scary. That's scary. And you know, when you say about HBO, it takes me back to what we spoke about before. It reminds me of like what I was saying about Zendaya, the singer actress. You know, you might recognize her like in Spider-Man playing the new Mary Jane. Huge Michael fan.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
And very, very vocal about her passion for Michael. Always tweeting, always posting on Instagram every birthday, every anniversary, and then every like week or something. And then she'd already become a part of this HBO production that was doing its kind of promotional tour when Leaving Neverland came out. So she would have been filming long before they knew about the whole Leaving Neverland thing. And obviously it was probably management that made her do it, but she deleted like the last 6 years of posts about Michael.
Yeah, Euphoria.
I mean, it's so terrible because people are like terrified of this big monster like just towering over them.
Well, you know, she's young and it's her career. Like that's people have, you know, canceled people for less or stopped people for less, and she's just starting out, you know, in terms of she was getting the steam of success and all that way. Now she's a huge superstar, but back then she was still, you know, I don't know if the Spider-Man one had come out yet or was about to come out, the Spider-Man one that she was in, but it is scary because, you know, not everyone's as connected and that when willing to throw their career down the toilet.
Right. And it's scary that that's the kind of ultimatum, isn't it? That they feel it's
yeah. And that look at me, like I'd look at it and I'm a director that wants to do movies in Hollywood, and I'm over here fighting with the major trades of Hollywood that will one day review my movies or one day hope promote my movies, and they're not going to do it anymore. Now they're going to, you know, because I've fought with them and I've called them out, and you know, the Rotten Tomatoes and all that stuff. And so I've burned so many bridges, but it's been worth it because it's my uncle, and I don't want to get false praise or I don't want to get praise from someone for the wrong reasons in that way, just because I was complicit. Complicit.
I want to. Someone says Taj, will Danny be a part of the documentary? Yeah, Taj has already put out like a thanks for the question. Has already put out a list of names that for like a team.
I took that down, Danny, actually, because some people were getting upset that they weren't on.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so I had to take it down. Unfortunately, it was just against me. Yeah. And that's always the hard thing. So I try and do something to keep people informed of what's going on in the series, and then it gets used against me. Like I had a lot of people complain, well, why is this person on when I've done this or that, or you know, did you know this person did this or said this? They go back all, you know, and it's just like there's a reason certain people are on that list. We're on that list, and it's not everyone's an expert in every era, and not everyone's an expert in every topic, but with that list, it covered so much, and it had an incredible team. It's like, you know, equivalent of a football team, or it's you know, when I say football, I mean soccer for the American people talking, or the American people listening. You know, you need a well-balanced team. You know, you don't just need people that can score. You need people that can defend as well. In that way, you know, you need an incredible goalie. You need all these things. If you just have one, then you're screwed in that way. Right. So I tried to put a well-rounded team as quote unquote the coach of the situation, and that everyone's there for a reason. Doesn't mean everyone's going to get along. Doesn't mean everyone likes each other, just like a football team. You know, there's people that hate each other, but they want to win together. They want the same goal to get that championship. And that's
I wasn't aware that you took it, that you took that down, but no, I understand it. You don't want that pressure, and it gets
distraction, too, and it's like I don't want to give people ammo in that way. I put it there so that people felt that they knew who was working on it, and so they could see that people were actually. It wasn't just a pipe dream of mine, that active people were working on it and whatever. But then I took it down because it became a problem. It became more of like, you know,
you're just going to the wrong places.
Yeah, and or they were contacting the people, kind of making crap about them. And now I'm not saying it's with the fan community, because it could have been just trolls doing it. But I just didn't just subscribe to that, because the last thing I want is someone quitting on the team because they're getting harassed.
Right. Exactly. So there's your answer to that question. But thanks for your kind words.
Danny, I might have to pause this to. No, I have sometimes. I just didn't want the battery.
Oh, yeah, sure. TAJ, you there?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. You say it again because it cut out.
No, I said my battery is about to die soon, but so I might have to pause it and grab a plug if we're going to still keep going.
That's fine, man. Do what you got to do. We'll answer a few more questions, and then if you gotta run, then do what you got to do. No problema. Okay, guys, we're gonna give TAJ a minute to plug back in.
I'll be right back.
Sure. All right, everyone. So thank you so much. All right, guys. Apologies if I'm not getting all your questions out. And I'm trying to cover it as much as I can and multitask here. Hello, Suzanne. I'm gonna see that TAJ answers that. Guys, I know some people are asking about Karen Faye. I have seen that, and I'm not ignoring it. I just think right now that's a little political right now, and you know, I know that Karen's been nothing but good to Michael's family, and so it's nothing personal. I'm not ignoring you guys or your questions regarding Karen. I don't really know what's been going on in that department recently. I know that fans have always had something to say about Karen. I don't get involved. It's too political. Some fans have always had stuff to say about Paris, whatever. But anyway, we're not gonna go there right now, guys. So I do apologize because it's a little bit too political, and it's not fair to put TAJ in that position. All right. So I just want to. And my experience and conversations with Karen have only ever been positive, and I know that Karen loved Michael and Michael loved Karen. So yeah, all right. But all right. So guys, we're gonna keep your we're gonna keep the love going, guys. Keep the love going. We don't want any arguments or disagreements here. Keep the love going. Okay, Suzanne, I'm gonna leave your question there for TAJ to answer when he comes back. Yeah, Ian is asking, what did you think of Michael's press conference for This Is It? Do you think he was ready? I don't know if you're asking that for me or for TAJ or for us both, but since TAJ isn't here right now, I'll say it since I was there at the front. I mean, look, man, Michael was pumped. He was enthusiastic. We were pumped. We were enthusiastic, of course, naturally. I thought Michael was ready. You know, I just had absolute faith. But of course, like 50 dates, we were kind of concerned, like, wow, that's a lot. And some of the dates were kind of quite close. And I had spoken to fans and friends who were with Michael in some rehearsal studios in LA during that time and were sending me personal messages, actually to me and to Karen Faye about their concern about Michael's health, that he was visibly and shockingly thin. And that was part of the reason why, like during Ursula and Thriller, for example, like that day, he was wearing that big puffy jacket to conceal how skinny he had become. But yeah, there are other things that I know about that happened during rehearsals that I wouldn't want to say in this live stream chat. But you know, it's a difficult time for Michael. He was under a lot of pressure. I mean, at the press conference, you know, as far as the press conference goes, he'd certainly, and anyone who was there as well can certainly share this, he certainly seemed ready. He certainly seemed enthusiastic and pumped and full of energy and really enthusiastic, you know. So it was a very exciting day. And Michael was fashionably late, as Michael always was. TAJ, I'm going to try and... okay, so I've got a question up from Suzanne, but before I go there, I had a question up earlier and we didn't answer it. Someone was just asking you if Michael was at least happy before he left Neverland, like after the acquittal. Was he at least happy or was he beaten?
Okay, every day after testimony or whatever during the trial, like we'd watch Three Stooges or do something, watch a movie, whatever that would make him happy in that way. That was like the ultimate goal with his kids and stuff like that. Was the ultimate goal, like to get him in the mindset so that he could actually sleep to have the next day to go, into war again in that way.
You guys would watch a movie for him to recuperate.
Yeah, a movie or Three Stooges. Three Stooges were that was always, but it was just like, is it going to be Three Stooges in a movie or just Three Stooges?
Wow. And do you remember like specific? Sorry to jump in just quickly. Do you remember like certain movies that you guys watched that Mike was fond around?
No, because some of them were just movies that were out or coming out at the time in that way. They weren't anything. It wasn't anything specific to something he was going through or in general. It was more
in the theater or on the television.
Yeah, in the theater. Okay. So it was more of what can get his mind off of anything. So anything probably court related was probably a no-go. In that way, it was an escapism, not this was always an escapism for him.
Yeah.
There. That's my whole purpose of being there, was for him to escape and to remember that there's people that truly believed in him. He could see it in me, but also then when he'd go out to the gates, he'd see it through you guys. But when he was acquitted, first of all, that was the most scariest day of my life, because us saying bye to him while he was on his way to, leaving court, and having the whole staff there, like standing outside waiting. It was just like, it was traumatizing in that way. But
do you remember what your exact thoughts were, like, as he was walking out?
This could be the last time I see him free, like in that way. You have to think that way as well. Even though he's innocent, you have to think, because it's not in your hands. It's in 12 other people's hands.
Yeah. And how were the children? That obviously they couldn't have been aware of what was going on.
No, they were sheltered and kept from knowing that. That would have been too much for them. And to my uncle's credit, whenever he came back home, it was like he left that behind him. Once everything. Now, whether he was making phone calls at night to Mesereau or Susan or whatever, that's different. I don't know that, because that was in his room,
Right.
But his kids really never saw that aspect. He always tried to spend as much quality time and be the best dad he could be with them.
Amazing.
But that day of acquittal, when it happened, because the media was painting this picture, especially in America, of they would just show the negative stuff. They wouldn't show any of the positive stuff. They wouldn't show Tom Mesereau destroying the witness on the stand after they had lied for a day of testimony.
Yeah.
So it was very one-sided, and you had to follow both sides of transcripts to get the truth, And so even for me, I was like, Mesereau was telling me that it was going great and all that stuff, but I was looking at the media and I'm like, doesn't seem like it's going great, the way they're painting this picture.
Right.
And so it was scary, but I know once, like, it all happened so fast once he was acquitted. It was almost like he was planning to leave as quick as he could. Like, I don't remember.
Did he leave literally, like he came back to the run. He was gone within 2 hours.
Honestly, it felt like it just could be my mind compressing. But it felt like he left within a week. Now, whether he did or not,
wow,
you could tell me it was a month and it felt like a week, But it felt like he was acquitted and he said bye America and left.
Wow. I visited the house that he stayed in Bahrain, and I mean, bless him. It's amazing, because obviously in the Middle East, even now, like when I do shows there and stuff, they just have so much love and admiration for Michael. But I remember seeing his house and just got that time. I mean, I just can't imagine what you were going through, that, like, when you were saying goodbye to him. As you say, it must have been so traumatizing.
It was traumatizing to all the staff. I mean, everyone that was there loved him. It's like the thing about Michael was, you can tell that Neverland staff cared about him. That was the amazing thing. It was a family. It was a family, and that's why a lot of the Neverland staff wants to be part of my project, because they still, even though they're not employed by him, even though they're not making any money from him, they want the truth to be out there. They want people to know how good this man was.
Yeah,
and that's a testament.
I remember Violet really well. Wasn't she the head of security? I think.
You know, it's fun. You're gonna laugh about this. I didn't remember. I don't know names very well. Like,
oh, really?
You can show someone's face and I'll be like, yeah, I know that. But names, it took time for me to know the name, because I was a kid in a candy store. I was just a kid that, you know, was hanging out with my uncle. This is the best feeling in the world. I didn't, you know, there's certain people when we went on tour with my uncle that we got to know, because it was the same people and over. But there's certain time periods too of that, like, you know, of people that I knew at Neverland.
Just because this comment's been up here, I'm just acknowledging Suzanne. She said from Holland.
Suzanne, my fellow Leo. Yeah.
And TAJ, would you ever speak to Michael about the trial at all when he came back, or it was like purely, you know, like just keep him distracted, take his mind off of it?
My job was never to talk to him about the trial. Like, my job was never for him to, that day was over. Like, for me, that was like torture for him. Like, anything talking about it. Now, I talked to Mesro about it, but talking to him about it was him reliving it again. Like, and someone that was already, you know, going through that. I did not want to, like, I was his escape into, let's go do this now. Like, you're free. Let's go do this. Almost like I would equate it to school. And then when you're out of school, like, you know, like every day you have to go to school, but then now you're at home, you can go play. What kind of thing?
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about school.
You're talking about school all the time.
Yeah, you don't want to go about school again or talk about homework and all that stuff. You want to go play in that way. And so that's how I looked at it. And I looked at it only because that's the only thing I could offer him. Like, I couldn't financially help him in that way, but I could spiritually be there for him and make him laugh and make him happy and make him dream, you know, which is what we did as well. We talked about future projects we were going to do film-wise and stuff like that. And so that was my job. That's where I was like, okay, that's
a great sense of escapism.
Well, and I also wanted him focused on the future as well, like not thinking that, you know, I was like, we're going to be able to do this and that, and once this is over and all that stuff, and have him believe, which I think he did anyway, but have him believe that, you know, that I believed that was, and I was never tricking him. I really believed in my heart of hearts when he was with me because of that energy. But then I would turn on the media, and then it was like I'd have that doubt. But never when he was there was I like, I don't know if I'm going to see him again. It was always the media putting that negativity in my mind.
Isn't it funny? You wonder how differently the public would have perceived everything if we had Twitter then, like how we do now. You know,
if we had Twitter then, and not if we had Twitter though, if we had just people being, it's so weird. It is weird because in a part, you know, there was a mystery to Michael Jackson that benefited him. You know, being larger than life. That I think if you knew what he ate for breakfast every day, whatever, it wouldn't be the same exact thing that, you know, that's what stardom is today. Like, you know what they wake up to and, you know, this and that. So you don't really, there's no mystery anymore. So
exactly.
I don't know if, like, I always say like a Prince or Michael Jackson or those kind of people, I don't know if they could exist in a Twitter world where everyone knows everything about them. And
I definitely don't think they'd have a personal Twitter account where they're doing like live streams of what they had for breakfast or whatever.
No, it would be their assistant or someone else managing their account, and they wouldn't have nothing to do with it. Like in some way.
Someone's asking here, hey, I'm sure you can see it. Hey, TAJ, will you consider being interviewed by Vlad TV? His platform would help. And then they ask about your thoughts on H3 podcast slandering your uncle.
What's
I haven't heard of H3. What are your thoughts on H3 podcast still slandering your uncle? I personally blocked that channel. I'm sorry. I don't. TAJ and I don't know what that podcast is. You're obviously not familiar with that, TAJ.
Yeah. I would go on.
Are you doing it in an interview with Vlad TV?
Only way I would do an interview. Huh?
Did he approach you for an interview?
He's tweeted about it, that there's an open invitation. How
do you feel about it?
I would do it after the series. I'm not doing it before the series because there's no benefit in doing it. And I know he has a huge platform, but I also know the things in the past that he's said about my uncle.
Yeah, he was kind of shady before, wasn't he?
Well, it's just, implying certain things or trying to get people to say certain things in general. And I know, for the community in general, that it's not been that great for. Now, I know he's done some recent interviews with Tom Mesereau and Scott Ross that have been great for the fandom and all that stuff. But I don't know. There's so many other channels that have been very good to our family and good to my uncle that even though they're not as highly visible, I've always been like that. I don't like rewarding someone or something because it has the numbers.
Right.
That's why I'm where I'm at. In general, we've been that way.
We've taken a different tone with Michael now, but still, as you say, you'd rather reward those who've always been good to your family than someone.
I need to see more. This could be something where he's seeing his numbers go up because there's such a huge fan base. So he's seen numbers go up and he's seen visibility, and he's like, oh, if I keep talking positive about Michael, then my numbers will go up. And I think consistency is important,
Definitely. And you want to know he's being sincere.
I want to know if he's being sincere. That's why I said afterwards, because then it's not going to affect what I'm doing. And in a way, then I'm getting something out of it too, because I'm promoting something I want to promote in that way. A positive image of Michael.
I just want to. Thanks, Flavia. I just want to.
Real quick, my dad did the interview with Vlad. My dad. First of all, if you don't know about my dad does every interview. My dad's not and then he finds out what the person says about your, he's like, what? And that's my dad. He's not like me. He's not on Twitter every day.
Yeah, your dad did an interview with someone who just a few months earlier was having an argument with TJ over social media because he was basically challenging TJ over social media because he had said something really nasty about your uncle, and then TJ gave a really dignified response, and he I forget who it is now.
Yeah, my dad. Don't go off my dad.
2 months later.
My dad is from the old school world of do everything, in that way. He's not connected with us in terms of the community. He doesn't go and research the people ahead of time, and say, oh, what did this person say about Michael? Should I do this interview or whatever? He's, I don't want to say he's just not connected in that way like we are. In that way. So don't use my dad as a
an example for you to follow.
Yeah, don't use because he's innocent in that way.
Right.
He's not doing it because my dad has always been consistent about Michael. And even if any of those people ever did bring up something about Michael in front of him, my dad corrects them.
Right. I just want to answer this. Someone says, Danny, did you ever meet Wade Robson? Did you ever tell anything bad about MJ? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so thanks for that question. I have never met Wade Robson personally, but I have a good friend who used to be best friends with Wade. And this friend also got to know Michael as well and is a fan. But he was personally best friends with Wade. And I think I told you this over the phone before, but he, not too long after leaving Neverland broke, he bumped into Wade Robson at an airport. I can't remember which airport of all places. And Wade Robson ran a mile when he saw him. So there was a guilty conscience on him. And my friend was speed walking toward him, and Wade Robson ran a mile. He got out of there quick. He avoided my friend at all costs because he knows he got something to answer for, and he knows what he's doing is wrong. And so obviously my friend also knew Chantal the sister really well. And with that, it was kind of the opposite. I think, I can't remember where he said he bumped into her, but she basically saw him, he saw her, he gave her a real stink look and stormed off. And then she actually tried to approach him as if to say, like, wait, you know, some kind of explanation, but he wasn't having it. And so my friend walked away. So yeah, just a little bit of kind of an insight. But personally, no, I have not met Wade. But that's kind of the closest of an account I can give you guys. Guys, lovely questions. Thank you. Like I said,
I gotta go in like 5 minutes. So.
I really okay. Cool. Guys, listen. Thank you all massively.
I didn't say now. I said 5 minutes.
I know, but when we say 5 minutes, it's like
it has to. Yeah,
it's like an hour. We know this. We know an hour. Okay, yeah, no, but this has been.
Someone asked what Taj's response about Jimmy and Wade claiming to have traveled dozens of times along with Michael.
Oh yeah, right.
I think it's ridiculous, you know, in terms of, you know, the amount of time that they've said that they've spent with him. You know, I think they've spent some of them probably have spent more time than others, but they've exaggerated everything, you know. They've exaggerated everything up until this point, and you know, Wade with his hundreds of times of being molested is
and being molested every single time. It's just
every single time, like, you know, like is beyond atrocious. And Jimmy with, you know, let's pick a spot in Neverland and say I was molested there, you know, safe child, is all equally ridiculous, especially with as many cameras and security that is around Neverland that would have seen anything.
Exactly. Someone's asking this, Taj, will you interview Lisa Marie for your project, or have you approached her at all? Are you at all in contact?
She's on my interview list. I love Lisa Marie. I always have. I've talked highly about her every time because seeing my uncle happy with her was one of the happiest moments I've seen of him. In terms of that, it was almost like two peers that should be together because they understand each other. At that moment, like, I think it was the time when my uncle felt like she doesn't want anything from me because she has enough for herself in that way. She just likes being with me as someone companion in that way. So I love Lisa Marie. I know she had a tragedy with her son, and so I was giving that breathing room and all that stuff. I would love for her to. Every interview she's mentioned that she doesn't want to talk about Michael anymore. So it's a tricky thing for me. Doesn't mean I'm not going to approach her. I personally have had a good relationship with her. Nothing ever bad. I would want her to be part of this. Like, she has to be part of this. In my mindset, I'm not thinking, well, we'll do it without Lisa Marie. Like, I want her to be part of it. She should be part of it because she's part of Michael Jackson's story in that way. That doesn't mean I'm going to approach her and she'll be the next interview I do, because there's a certain way you do things in that way. Yeah, definitely. You might have to see it and see which direction I'm coming from and see the beauty of it and go, yeah, I want to be part of this. And that's totally understandable. Yeah, and the thing is that there's so many people you can approach to interview. I mean, so many people, people who the public didn't really know, people who are very well known, Lisa Marie, Macaulay Culkin, so on and so on. And that in itself, just getting people on your interview list, approaching them, having them agree or not or whatever, that in itself is a whole bundle of work before you've even started rolling. Yeah, I think there's a Twitter thread about Miko Brando, and you know, Miko Brando is definitely on my list of people too. I love Miko. Miko used to take us to school, me and my brothers to school. Really? I never knew that. So I have a good relationship with Miko. I love that guy. So he's someone that I always like in terms of wanting to interview. He's someone on the earlier list of people to interview in that way. It has to be well-rounded, but those are the people behind the scenes that, unless you know the stories of them, you don't know the friendship that they had with Michael, because it was not so public.
Right. Right. Yeah. Mika, wow, how cool. What a cool school drop-off rate. Did you ever see Marlon Brando as well? Like,
memory is a weird thing. So I can't say 100% if I ever met him or I just met his equipment. I saw his room at Neverland when he was staying there when he was very sick.
oh, wow, really?
Yeah,
2002, 2001.
I don't remember exactly when it was, but he had one of the guest units, and I know exactly the guest unit that he had. It was like specifically for him.
Wow.
Now, the reason I'm saying that, because if I would have met Marlon Brando, I would remember it.
Right,
exactly, but I do remember his equipment and going, Brando's somewhere here, like, where is he?
What was he sick with? It was just old age.
I don't know, but I do know that, my uncle, it was he stayed at Neverland, and that was part of it.
Someone's just asking, are you going to interview Brett Barnes or Omar?
I hopefully will. Brett's an interesting scenario because Brett is so private. Like, Brett's not been out there, He's fought in Twitter world and stuff like that. But there's a lot of people that don't know what he looks like, who he is still. He has his own private life in Australia. And he gives me support, behind the scenes in that way. He's so adamant for Michael in that way. But it's hard for me to ask someone that has privacy to become a public figure again, and throw away all that privacy that you've had for 20 something years. And in general. Now, that doesn't mean he won't do it. It just means that when the time comes, I will ask him, hey, do you want to be interviewed or do you not want to be interviewed? I might interview his family around him, and then he might become more comfortable. But it is a lot.
If you kind of concealed his presence.
That looks weird. Then that looks like, it's like, what is he? Like, if I saw that, I'd be like,
my name. Sound like the guy from Saw. Yeah.
I'm Bill Barnes, and I was very close to Michael, and it's like this weird screen. It's like, that would just look weird, like almost like, is he in witness protection program or what's, and Brett's so adamant. Like, Brett, I love Brett because Brett is like, whenever you hear something, he's like, he contacts me where I'm like, this is messed up or whatever. We just have a good friendship in that way, and it's a bond through Michael, like, because both of us were so blessed to be around Michael in that way. And then I have a good relationship with Omar as well in that way. And I would hope he would want to be part of it. He stayed away from that whole hoopla aspect of it, but it would just be getting him to be in front of cameras and all that, because they both have incredible stories and they both need to tell a story. Now, what I don't want to do is interrogate them. That's not the whole purpose of it. Right. The purpose is to share their memories of Michael, their incredible memories of Michael, so that people see it and go, these people, there's no way that Michael did this to these people, because look at them. They're like so happy, and they're they're sharing all these wonderful stories, but I don't want to sit there and go, so here and here it says Michael molested you. Can you answer that? And like, that's just it's like, it's not my purpose, and it's tabloidy. In a way.
I think that's the thing as well, why people are asking specifically about Mac and Brett, because in Leaving Neverland, they implied that Michael moved on to them when he became.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, and every time Mac has had to say nothing happened, it's still not enough for people. He said it in 7,000 different languages.
Yeah.
Brett said it in 7,000 different languages, so I can take something from one of those interviews. It's not like saying it an 8th and 9th and 12th time is going to make a difference. People don't accept it. Yeah. Max said it the year that Leaving Neverland came out. He said it on a podcast, Michael's been nothing but great. It doesn't matter. He said it under oath. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, he said it in 2004. He said it in 2005, 2006.
So that's what I'm saying. So if he said, that's not what I want to ask Macaulay Culkin. What I want to ask Macaulay Culkin is, what was it like to build the water balloon station? And like, what was your best memory of Michael, and why did you guys connect so much? What do you think it was that made you guys like? Because I want people to understand Michael through Macaulay,
Right. Right.
What
and
was it
and how they were parallel in many ways.
And parallel, how was Michael's friendship with McCall? Why was it, as opposed to, you know, and it's that fine line, because people will always have that question, but you can answer that question 1,000. If people don't believe you, they don't believe you. But that becomes because people don't know Michael, you know. So they're not taking other people's answers as answers, because they don't. They're almost like, well, that's because, you know, he tricked you, or he did, you know. It's always that. But if we actually do it right and create the right atmosphere and people really learn who Michael Jackson truly was, those thousands of answers that he's answered before would have been enough.
Exactly. And you know, in addition to the point that you made, Taj, Andrew Green just made a good point, which is like, you know, how you were saying you didn't want to put those particular questions to them. They've gone over it so many times over the years. Just them being in it is them already saying it without saying it, in terms of he's innocent.
100%. That's how I would look at it. Like, you know, just the same way Wade wanted to get married at Neverland. Like, just that fact of matter, when you said you've been molested 100, should be enough to say that this guy's lying.
Totally. Okay, Taj, maybe just 2 more questions before you go, if you have the time. Someone's just said here, who from the family members will be on the documentary, or do you plan to have in the documentary?
I have to. Originally, I didn't plan on having any family members, just because I didn't want it to seem family heavy, almost like this is from the family. But now that I have so many people being interviewed, I want to have family members, because they round up the family side of it. You know, like they tell certain stories that other people wouldn't be able to tell in that way. So I would love my Aunt LaToya. She's got a lot to say. Her and Michael were so close at one point, and then so far at another point.
Yeah, do you think she'd be comfortable going into that? I know she spoke about it with Larry King before.
I think she'd be comfortable in certain ways of going into. I mean, it's all how you approach it in a way. I mean, what happened to LaToya was cause and effect. You know, she had a abusive husband, that made her do certain things. So it wasn't LaToya doing those things. It was someone making her do things.
She was in an extremely abusive relationship.
Yes, and so I think there's a difference in that aspect of it, but yeah, like certain people I would love in the family to be part of this, has to be part of it, because they round out who Michael is in that way.
The other question, I can't find where it is now, but someone was just basically saying, what are your thoughts and feelings and knowledge of the whole biopic thing, the movie going ahead?
The what?
The movie. The announcement of a biopic movie about Michael going ahead. What are your thoughts and feelings about that? Someone asked it, and I can't see where it is to highlight it. What do you think about that? I forget who it is. I'm sorry.
Oh, you know, biopics are so popular, and they're so huge. I just hope it's done right, and I know from behind the scenes, it's the care is doing it. They're doing it right. I just can't fathom who would play Michael. Like, it just doesn't, you know, that's me though. Like, if there was a human being out there that encompassed everything, then, you know, maybe I'm wrong, but I just can't fathom that. So it's hard for me to see it in that way. That doesn't mean I don't want it. It's just hard for me to see it.
Yeah. I it's funny you say that, because I saw Spike Lee around the time that he was promoting Bad 25, and I asked him, would he ever make or direct a movie about Michael's life? And he really appreciated the question, but he just straight away answered, the answer is simply no, because he said there is no one out there, no actor, no performer, who could portray Michael in a way that could be that could serve him justice. He just doesn't know who could portray Michael. Michael was so unique in so many different ways, on and off stage. He said, as a filmmaker, as successful as he is, he just didn't see how he could achieve that, which is an incredible statement.
I always equate Michael to Prince, just because it's just like there's that uniqueness and that persona of just. It'd be the same with Prince in that way. Like, I don't see someone like Prince only could play Prince, you know, in Purple Rain. You know, like, I don't see anyone. I see people doing a spoof in that, but to actually you know, it takes someone unknown and someone with that same talent and energy, and there's an aura about it in that way. With Michael, it's the same thing. It's like there's an aura about it that, you know, it's fine for Broadway or this or that and whatever, because but biopics are just so, they're almost like capsules, time capsules. Like people look at biopics and they think that's how the person looked like, and so it has to be that. You know, like you see Jamie Foxx and Ray, and you're like, oh, you know, that's how he looked like. And
right.
Or whatever, the guy from Queen, the Bohemian Rhapsody. It's like, he looks somewhat similar to Freddie Mercury, but it's like that's it. Like people sometimes get introduced to Freddie Mercury through that movie, and in some ways that's good, and in some ways that's a shame, because, you know, it still doesn't captivate who Freddie Mercury truly was. Like,
I guess the very least it's a door, but for some people who before were none the wiser to walk through and then discover. But I mean, my shout out to the estate, I only asked to be a dance body double. That's it. I'm not saying I'm anything close to Michael, but that's just my shout out. Not the estate watching.
No, and the thing with the biopic is like, yeah, you're right. It could be a door into loving Michael's music or learning about for the future generations. But that's why I think a lot of things need to coexist, because I don't think it should be the only door into Michael's, you know, generation from now, like 100 generations from now. I don't want the biopic to be the only thing that says Michael Jackson on it, and people think that's everything in there is exactly what it is. And so,
yeah, I mean, I this might be treading on thin ice to mention this, and, you know, not that I'm expecting you to respond, Taj, because it might be even more thin ice for you. But when I saw the hologram performance at was it the BET Awards when they did Slave to the Rhythm, and like, oh my God, I just thought it was just going to be like watching Michael, and then like in the fan community we were like this, and then we saw it and we went, huh? And my thing was, same as what you're saying. So many kids, like the younger generation, that's going to be their first impression of Michael. But then I kind of thought, well, hold on a minute. At least that can serve as a door for them to walk through and then discover who Michael really is. You know,
and you hope that they do, yeah. And that's the thing, and a lot of them
definitely happened. That definitely happened.
Hey, there's cartoons right now. There's Motown Magic that playing Jackson 5 music. I'm hoping that's a door for kids to learn about the Jackson 5. And so, you know, and so, yeah, you hope that door opens up, you know, for the whole catalog in that way.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But listen, guys, we'll just finish with this. There will never be another Michael Jackson. That just says it simply right there. Thank you, everyone.
Real quick, though, I'm not, you know, with the biopic, I wish it well, and same with the Broadway thing. I've always only wanted my uncle to have success in that way. I'm rooting for it to be incredible, both of them.
Yes.
You know, that because that, you know, the state is for my uncle's kids, you know, it's for my cousins. I want it to do well. I don't want it to fail, because that's a narrative that the media will use. If the Broadway doesn't sell out, the media will say it's a failure because of Leaving Neverland.
Right.
And they use that as an example. So I've always wanted everything to succeed in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Anything that's pro Michael and that supports Michael's legacy and the family, then naturally we're all behind it. But Taj, I know you've got to go. So once again, everybody, we just want to say thank you so much for joining us.
3.5 hours. Yeah.
Apologies for those questions I didn't read, and if I'm a little bit slow, sorry. But Taj, once again, I know I've said it a few times. I'll say it once again. Thank you so very much for your kindness, your guidance, and your time, and for being here on my channel. And thank you, everyone, once again. Wishing you lots of love, happiness, and we'll speak to you guys soon.
Thank you guys so much for everything. Seriously, thank you for keeping me going, and thank you for just the support. I see it all. I really do. And, you know, it's so helpful. So thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great night or the rest of your day. God bless. Good night. Thanks again. Michael forever, baby.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.